What a good time to be alive. Peace, brothers and sisters. Here we are with ALTBAYS Show, brought to you by altbase.nz. We're loving doing this show. It's just unbelievable the amount of great feedback we're receiving from the community. So I just want to start this by saying thank you. We're doing this for you guys. Of course, we love doing this, but it's all for the community. You know, that's what we're up to, bringing people together. And we love to see communities growing together to thrive away from bullshit, right? The ALTBAYS Show happens here in ALTBAYS Studios in Whitianga. So if you like what you see and if you have great ideas about running your own show, or if you need a space to run live meetings or webinars, this is the place for you. Just go on altbase.nz, get in touch with us, tell us what you're up to, and we will put you on the right track. Okay? Very, 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 very soon, everything is pretty much ready. We're just coming with some details now. You will find out how to be a sponsor, a member, or a supporter of this show. While this part is not ready, the best thing you can do is to go on our YouTube channel, which you are right now, and just click that subscribe button. It's a very step for you, but it's a huge thing for us. It really, really helps if you subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our Facebook page. Okay. Are you all right there, Mr. Popper? Oh yeah, that's right. Sometimes I forget about that. A lot of people come to me and say that they love our shows, but sometimes they don't get to watch the whole thing because they don't have time or for whatever reasons. So we started ALTBAYS Clips. It's our second YouTube channel where you can watch highlights and the short clips of these amazing conversations. Okay, so if you don't have time to watch the whole show, just go and enjoy the ALTBAYS Clips. You can find the link on the ALTBAYS Show channel, the altbase.nz channel, or just type ALTBAYS Clips and you will find us there. Cool. Tonight on my left, I have the pleasure to have Mr. Roberts here. Hi, Fabian.
Kia ora, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm enjoying the shows so far. I've watched none of them, but I've heard pretty good feedback.
That's good.
I've heard some feedback about them being too long, and I said, well, just fucking turn it off.
Well, turn it off.
Yeah.
Well, don't have to watch
like a light switch. Flick.
That's right. Are you not watching the shows because you can be bothered or because you're a busy man?
Probably a busy man. I get a bit tired. Working in a school's big, young kids, a few DIY projects. I've been a bit unwell the last couple of weeks. I've had days off at a time.
Not COVID?
No, not COVID. Had six swabs in 2 weeks.
God damn.
Keep bleeding. It's great. It's good fun.
How is this swab? I haven't done any. I'm all right. How is it? How is the process? How do you check if you got COVID?
Well, generally speaking, you open up a package, you get where the sample goes, a little dripper, but you put a little swab up there, about 2 to 3 centimeters up each nostril, give it 10 little swirls around, take it out, next nostril, 10 little swirls around, get it really good. Make sure you've cleared the airway with a bit of a nose blowing. Then you put it into a little bit of water, there's a little tube that comes with it, little solution, you sort of squeeze it, twist out all the moisture once you've squeezed out all your nose gunk. And then you put on a little nozzle, you tip it in, and you, ones I've had 3 drops, some say put in 4 drops, and you wait for the little lines to come back. C, normal, the test is fine.
Oh, so C for COVID is normal.
I think that's right. Hopefully I've got that right, otherwise we're all at risk.
There's lots of different tests. Just read the instructions.
Right, read the instructions. So you're fine?
Oh yeah, we're fine. Good. Tired.
You could have been a doctor.
I could have been. So who's that wonderful voice I'm hearing off to my left?
Well, it's not God. Oh, it is, because we're all God, right?
Namaste.
Namaste. Mr. Mark Troup, or how do I say
Troup. Yeah, that's right.
Troup.
Yeah.
Mark Troup.
Mark Troup.
In front of me here with us tonight.
Good to be with you. Good to be with you.
Thanks, Mark. What a pleasure, man.
Yeah, it is cool. Yeah.
What do you think of the space?
I'm just blown away. I've actually got to check it earlier, you know, and I just realised, even we were talking earlier, I didn't even think about it. I'm staring at a San Pedro.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, it says something to me.
It is. Yeah.
I won't go into it, but you know.
Not yet.
No, not yet.
We'll get into that.
So I think the technical man might be involved with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the letter Y, I think.
That's what nice. Yeah.
And I love yours, actually.
It's on its last legs, but I thought I'd wear it for because it's a special shirt for me, for this place. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where did you get it from?
It's come from Pushkar, I think. Pushkar in India.
Pushkar in India.
Yeah, yeah.
You got it there in person?
Yeah. We up until the last 3 years, of course, everyone has been stopped. We travelled there regularly. You know, it's one of our homes. When we arrive there, people come out to hug us. You know, it's beautiful. Yeah, it's a beautiful place.
Can you situate me on India's map, please?
Well, Pushkar is in Rajasthan. It's the largest state by area. It's mostly desert, so there's not as much people as other states. So it's in the northwest, towards the Pakistan border. Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's has some sort of on the border itself. There's some intensity, but the people themselves are beautiful people. They love good food and good living. You know, the town we go to is Pushkar. It's actually illegal to drink alcohol.
Oh, what?
But they say in Pushkar and all through India, they say sab kuch milega, which means everything's possible. So they see a thirsty Westerner like me, and all of a sudden there's cold beer, you know?
Yeah. It just shows up.
And whatever else I might require for the situation. You know, they're good people, yeah.
Nice, and a big shout out to big fans of the Rajasthan Royals cricket team. The IPL is starting up in about a month.
Yeah.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, they're gods in India, of course.
Oh, absolutely. And we've got a few Kiwis going over.
Yeah, yeah.
Some big money being made. Kane
Do you
Williamson.
play, Mark? Do you play?
No, I never sort of could get that thing the way that they hold the bat. I was saying to Gabe from Hula, you know, from the cafe, you know, he's really good at it, but it's such an awkward sport. You know, it's such an awkward thing. And it takes this amazing skill, you know. For me, it's and plus I shied away from team sports when I discovered surfing. It became sort of this freedom, because team sports you have this training thing and that, you know, and it's great for building camaraderie, I suppose. But
What age was that when
Probably-
you realized that surf was your thing?
probably 14 or 15. I had a friend who did really well at school, and his parents were a bit richer than my parents, and they bought him a car when he was 15. So we started doing the surfing thing. You know, I thought that was the beginning and the end of life. I thought I'd be the surf person until I died, and then of course I was awakened from travelling. You know, and I thought, wow, for me, travelling sort of cuts across it. I still surf, you know, but then the travelling became. Just the beauty of it just blew me away. I just couldn't believe it.
So where did you grow up, Mark?
In a place called Karaka, which is South Auckland, and it used to be a farming community that was very, very conservative, very monoculture, and but people worked together, and it was a real community. And there was hierarchy, there was class. When I look back, you know, the farm owners were the high class, and then the farm workers were. You're treated well, but it was a cool place. But now it's just lifestyle blocks. It's you know, capitalism took over.
Right.
Yeah,
Big shout out to capitalism.
Yeah.
Taking over.
I like your thing.
Yeah, it's one of the things I daily question. Yeah, and it's probably unpopular to question it. I realise, but I can't see.
It's unpopular to question capitalism.
Yeah, well, I always wonder. You know, like you talk to people that do business school and. They study business, and I ask them, what's the critique of the system you're studying? And they don't have one. I says, well, that's called propaganda. You know, that's what it's called. You know, if you don't have an alternative view or a critique, you're actually studying propaganda. And I thought, wow, this is our society in general. You know, we don't actually have we call it democracy, but I've never had a choice. About this issue, you know, but I'm okay with it, you know. Heck, you know. Yeah,
you gotta be right, otherwise you live in madness.
People, you still got to deal with the day. That's all in fact, that's my philosophy really. And as I get up in the morning, and I see what cards I'm dealt, and it's a free way of living. You know, just whatever comes, and you. And sometimes you have frustrations and anger like everyone else. My workmates will tell you, they laugh at me swearing and getting angry, but in general, you just let things go, you know. Yeah.
Mark, do you think, so interesting how you just jumped into that, diving deep, I love it.
Yeah. It's because I'm talking to you. We always do this when we get together.
I know, right?
Yeah, we do, Fabian. It's always
great. Oh, Fabian loves it as well, so I'm not worried about that. But do you think there is a way for us to support this awareness of how the system is actually not that fair to everybody, or it's one of those things that it's better to let it go because it's gonna end up eating its own tail like any other systems that we had in the past that just collapsed, and we know that capitalism is going to collapse sooner or later. What's your take on it?
But it is easy to fall into the trap of saying I don't care, you know. I'm sort of guilty of it myself. Fuck this, you know, I can't deal with it, you know. So maybe I sort of see now that you can only one person you can really, really change, and it's you. It's the only person you can really change for sure. And hopefully the energy that people feel off you will maybe help them to see that there is alternative ways to live. We don't have to follow this machine that makes you conform, you know, that we can actually be free, you know, and we can live within it, and it will pass. Everything changes.
I suppose my thing of that is that links to the idea of, you know, be the change you want to see in the world. So you got to work with the system to change the system, and things are hard to crash. See, I'm more optimistic about capitalism in the sense that society as a whole, health, food, nutrition, etc. There's been so much of the industrial revolution, so much technology revolution. There's so much good that could and can come out of it all that already has. And then I think maybe the solution is not capitalism. It's better.
No.
It's better capitalism. It's better incentives for things.
Possibly, but I think there may be. I understand that argument, but also when you have a system that's set up with competition as its base, then there's always going to be winners and there's always going to be losers. And we talk about, actually, I was talking to someone the other day about technology and how it's improved health and all that sort of thing, but that's only for a very small percentage of people.
That's right.
People still die of diarrhea.
Yeah. So we need to make that better. I can't see a system like, because competition has always happened in every species.
Oh yeah, people naturally do. Yeah,
but the whole world is full of competition. So better managed competition. The fact that there's such a saying as first world problem is so embarrassing. I think first world problem. No, that's a first world embarrassment.
Yeah,
there are literally people dying of diarrhea, dying of their own poos because they can't get fresh water.
Yeah.
That's absurd.
And so maybe rather than competition, and this is something that you see in nature, is cooperation. They don't cooperate necessarily across species. You know, lions cooperate to murder other species and to survive for food, you know. So I don't know if you call it murder.
You definitely do get different species that cooperate together. That's how an ecosystem works. They each feed off the different things and only feed so much so that other species can survive and they live in their own natural ecological niche. But I also think the other idea is if you kept competition, who can do the best job at fixing this? Who can help the most people in the most effective ways? But then it's a competition.
Yeah, but then you got to make sure that everybody is starting in the same starting point, right? Yeah. So like if you get the people who are competing,
a level playing field, they love to talk about it.
You know, like it's that classic talk at school sometimes, for example, when you say, like sometimes you have tests or sometimes you have different ways to telling people how good they are or not, but like you have to consider the ones who had a good night of sleep, the ones who had a meal the night before, you know, even if it's a equal system that is checking the level of people, like what they're good or bad at, you got to see if they're all
they went to a school where there was a teacher for one teacher for every 10 children, and in capitalism is another classic example. If you've got money, you can go to a school. As the ex-Prime Minister John Key did, you know, he said, I remember him saying, and I don't have really a favourite in politics, but I remember him saying how one teacher could teach 30 children, 35 children, and then his children went to these special schools where there was only, you know, one teacher for 5 or 6 people, you know, like, and it's the idea you're talking about, Fabian, I agree with, but I can't really see it. Maybe I'm a cynic, you know, but I can't really see it happening with a capitalist society. It's just not. It's nothing changing. But then again, I'm not suggesting what would make it better except sharing. I don't know a system that works. You know, people always throw other stuff at me. I thought, no, I'm not talking about anything else.
Well, I know there's the effective altruism movement, which is quite big at the moment, trying to get, at the moment, the initial sort of steps are getting billionaires to give 10% of their money
Yeah.
every year that they would earn, but then to give away 99% of their wealth before they died.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're signing on billionaires every couple of months or so. They get a new person to come in. They've got a new fellow that's on Wall Street, who was on Wall Street for a while. I've lost his name, but I can put the link for you if you like. Whose whole movement of becoming rich was so he could help people, and he became the world's youngest self-made billionaire. I think at 31, 32, and he's an American fellow. Of course, his parents are both university professors. He had a leg up.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. But his entire
He's made the most of it. Good on him. Yeah.
and his entire incentive in life and his drive is, what's the best thing I can do? Do you want me to volunteer? They go, no, we have volunteers in the world. We don't have the money. And so he's started his own, what do you call that? Bitcoin, what's the word?
Oh yeah, the cryptos.
He's made his own cryptocurrency
yeah.
thing, and he's made so many $1 billion. And his goal is to try and get as much money as he can to get rid of it.
If you lived in a compassionate society, you wouldn't need people giving money away. Wouldn't be needed.
That's the thing.
You wouldn't have people with $1 billion.
The same way that like it's cool to see a billionaire who is keen to give, but like, do we really need billionaires? You know, like I always go back to that. I'm like, okay, there's one giving. Oh, good. What about the other ones? You know, like why do we allow even this thing to happen?
Yeah.
You know, because at the end of the day, the people who are in the shit, they don't care about our discussion.
Nah.
They're still in the shit.
Yeah,
you know, like, and I see a lot of intellectual people, oh no, talking, and I'm like, you're not changing much, eh? Like you're not making big changes, you know, like by saying, oh, a little bit of the money should go there. And I'm like, well, why don't we change the distribution?
It's a good way of justifying your position too. Yeah, because most great wealth comes through exploitation. I've never seen great wealth without exploitation involved.
No, so I'm going to push back on that one.
Yeah, good on you. No, I like
it's
this.
a great example I use sometimes, and I know because I'm a big follower of the Sam Harris podcast series and his books and his talks, but one of them's talking about what did J.K. Rowling do wrong and evil to write the Harry Potter series? Who did she exploit? What did she do wrong to suddenly sell enough books that she suddenly became a billionaire? Mm-hmm. And so she's a $1 billion empire based on children's stories and education, who pumps all kinds of money back into education. And yes, she continues to grow it, but should there be a cost to people doing well?
Oh, not necessarily, but then why doesn't the man collecting the rubbish get $56 an hour or $100 an hour? He's doing one of the best things in society.
Oh man, what would we do, without these guys?
The Western world was a cesspool before they collected rubbish. It was probably more effective than modern medicine. Places like Paris and of course.
In Brazil, Mark, Brazil, this is an interesting one. We have these guys, they carry trolleys in the streets and they make their own trolleys and they collect, because Brazil, it's a landfill in the streets, you know? That was the first thing that it shocked me, and I remembered when I went back after 6 years, I was like, oh yeah, true, rubbish everywhere. That's how we live. Not everywhere, but you know what I mean, right? It's just there. Yeah. And these guys, they do the collection. Yeah. And they have no respect at all, like from the government. Actually, people beat them up and they're very harsh to them. Yeah. But when you see the numbers, like without them, we wouldn't be recycling stuff, because obviously there's no recycling plan for a third world country with 200 million people. Should have, but there's not. You know, so you have these guys doing the groundwork, doing the real work, and getting like mistreated all the time, and you look down on them. You think they're gonna rob you, and actually they're cleaning for you and not even getting paid, because they have to do that to get some money for themselves. Yeah, of course. Yeah. You know, so what you're saying is like sometimes, and that's where I want to go with your trips to India, because you've seen that. It probably changed my life. At the time I went there, I was 20. I must say, Fabian, I do know wealthy people that I admire for that same thing too. You know, to me, it's a systemic problem, not a personal thing. You know, but when I went to India as a young person, I spent quite a lot of time stoned, to tell you the truth. And so at the time, not a massive effect, but I saw stuff that affected me. You know, that's still, I can still see the eyes of a child that was probably dying. You know, and it was sort of, at the time I wasn't weeping or anything like that, but I thought, whoa, this doesn't look right, you know? And I just let it go, and excuse me. And then it was probably a few years later when I started looking at what was happening in the world and what we were hearing, you know, because we have a limited view of the world from New Zealand, you know, of course, you know, it's a small country.
And then the West is a very limited view. And all we hear about is our little world. You know, what's the West? Is it, someone was saying the other day to me, it was 10% of the world is the West. A journalist was saying it's 10%. And it was celebrating this massive success for the world. And then we've started celebrating how we've lifted all these people out of poverty. And you look at the figures of those lifting people out of poverty, the millions they say they lifted out of it. Most of them are in China. It wasn't the West. Most of the people lifted out of poverty were in China, and they just used those figures to prop up our figures, or how wonderful we are. Our system worked. Well, no, it didn't. It didn't work. You know, it's a. I'm not saying communists worked either, but in this case, it did.
That's a really.
But they embraced capitalism.
That's a really interesting point. My sister-in-law, her parents grew up in abject poverty in central China.
Yeah, wow, yeah.
And to the extent where her grandparents, uncles, other aunties and uncles, all family, had a single pair of pants in the household. And if you ever wanted to leave the house, they had to wait for someone to come back, put on the pants so they could go and do a job or a shop or whatever. And then over the time, over sort of 30, 40 years, you know, my sister-in-law's parents suddenly had property.
Yeah.
And they could all get bottled water, and they could all get food, and all of a sudden they all just had mass production. So during the communist regime, they went from abject poverty, from the shaming of rich people. If you had lots of things, that you got really punished at the beginning of that.
Maybe
sort of
killed
stage.
even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to be so violent with our children listeners. Yeah. And so from their perspective, their family grew up, you know, from my sister-in-law's perspective, the two generations before her grew up through this regime of suddenly becoming middle class.
Yeah.
Through a system of suddenly they have wardrobes full of pants.
Yeah.
And underpants and socks, and how many shoes do you need? And how many shoe shops can I go to today and buy 10 pairs?
Wow.
Because, you know, that was the system.
Have you been to China?
Yeah, I went in 2016.
Did you,
Central.
How did you find it?
It was amazing. They lived in Shenyang, which was the original capital near the Terracotta Warriors.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Never been there.
Some of the only white people.
Yeah.
And my wife has blonde hair.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And so hundreds of people would flock to just come and see her in her hair to want to take a photo. And, you know,
celebrity.
Legitimately. And you sort of get, they called it at the time white man syndrome. If you go and there's one of these places as a person who's got a degree behind you, come to this place, you're all of a sudden put up on this pedestal as you're the foreigner, you're the person from the movies, you've been to Hollywood, we don't know anything about you, but you're our ticket out of here, you're freedom. Yeah. So yeah, two of my brothers had that, and now they're back. Yeah. But it was life changing to see less abject poverty than I saw a while ago in Egypt, but to see that many people. Yeah. Imagine Fiddy with 1 million people in it just in town. Yeah, or 10,000 people in that square block because it's a skyscraper.
I think it's one of those, what I call it's a pleasant assault, but it's an assault on the senses. That's what we find in India. It's the same thing. It's everything. The smell.
Did you feel overwhelmed, Mark? First time. What age were you? First time.
The first time I was 21, I think. But it was And
what? Sorry, what took you there? What was the thing?
Just my first travel thing. Yeah. Just the New Zealand thing. You get to a certain age, you travel.
Who got you to go there?
I wonder if my sister had been there, and some of her in-laws, they'd sort of travelled there. So it was in my mind, And what happened was that the idea was me and a friend went on a surf trip. We went to Indonesia for a couple of months surfing and then Sri Lanka. And then we were going to go through India and go to Europe. And then I get to India and I thought, Europe costs so much. Maybe we can stay. So we stayed 3 or 4 months, not a long time. And I was very green naive. I probably didn't take in as much as I could have. Like I said, I was, indulging as well. So that was a part of my learning in life. But I also missed out on certain things. But I meet some amazing people, and to see another culture, and to see I remember going to Calcutta. I always remember this because I wasn't into politics. I am now. As far as studying them, I don't necessarily vote or anything, but I look at it. But I'm never into that sort of thing. Didn't read the papers. And but I knew communism was bad. And I get to Calcutta, that's what I've been taught, conditioned to believe. And so I get to Calcutta, and there's hammer and sickle everywhere. I thought, isn't that the communist thing, like dictatorship and that? They were elected. But, I thought, wow. It was just such a thing, you know. Maybe that was part of it. As we're talking now, I just realised it sort of cracked through my conditioning in life. I was thinking a certain way, and then go to this other place, and it's really different, you know. And then they have a strike when everything's shut. And being India, even then you go and knock on a door and it opens and they, what do you want to buy, you know? It's really cool. You have this amazing thing happening, you know. But yeah, so it's sort of that awakening of seeing that sort of thing. It's funny, it just occurred to me now, just seeing that. I remember at the time, hammer and sickle, that was the evil people.
The evil people.
Yeah, and they were cool because it was in the, you know, in the TV shows and everything, you know. It was like the Germans and the communists were the evil ones, you know. Like, you know, we had Hogan's Heroes when I was young. It was a show that made German people look stupid. It was incredibly prejudiced and bigoted, but it was a comedy, and you were just a kid laughing at it, you know. And then you travel and you meet people with a different view, and then start talking to people, and you go, oh wow, this is really different, you know. And young people that were really politically aware, you know. And I was just hedonist, basically. I just wanted to surf and have fun, you know. That was my life. And then I thought, wow, these people are interesting. Yeah.
How long did it take you? Like, how many trips did it take you to start to wrap your head around the humanitarian thing and be a bit more engaging?
Probably years.
Engaging more.
Because I probably, when I came back in the 84 or something, 83, 84, I sort of went down another way, you know. I was experimented with reality, and I thought I was sort of living the moment, but I wasn't really, you know. And so I sort of... wouldn't say wasted. You learn from what you do, you know. But there's a few years of just going down another path, and it was years later. It was like before me and Leah, my wife, started going to India. That was 2008. So there's years in between, you know, years in between. And when I went back, I'll never forget it, because I felt like I was home. I can't even explain it. I just felt so relaxed. You land in New Delhi, you walk out there. You're getting hustled. It's left, right, and centre. You know, people trying to make 50 cents off you because they're broke. You know, someone picks up your bag, you got to pay them for picking up your bag, and you didn't even ask them to. But I felt relaxed. It was the most bizarre. I was sort of questioning I was sort of looking at myself using. I suppose it's, when I look at it now, you step back into awareness when things like that happen sometimes, and it's like you're just watching this person enjoying this. You're like being home. Like, it was just amazing, you know. It was an amazing place, and it's part of that thing with all the people, the energy, just lifts you. But I don't know why. I just knew to relax. I
suppose your senses would have been just overwhelmed.
Oh yeah.
The noise, the colours, the shapes,
smell,
everything.
Yeah, you know, because some places wreck, you know, like that really hits you, you know, a little bit, you know. Of course, you know, when you first go there, and but the colours and the noise and the colours are so cool. It's one of the things that I miss all the time, you know. I drive around here, these new subdivisions, and they've all got grey roofs. You know, I thought, wow, that's really creative.
Apparently the palettes of colors, like you have the colors that you can choose or not, right?
Yeah.
For your house. That's great for freedom, isn't it?
Grey, brown, or shades thereof.
Wow.
You know, but it's sort of made. I do love the colour thing. You know, it's a certain vibrancy to it. You know.
Sorry.
I was just saying there is. I don't pretend that there's not really bad shit happening. You know, you can see it. Yeah, you can see it for sure. You know.
Do you remember the first time you were in shock? You saw something and you were like, "Oh, okay, here we go. This is different."
When I was young, it was like that. When I was 21, because you know we got in a hassle, me and my friend in Kashmir, in Srinagar. We're on a houseboat and we didn't really want to stay there. And we'd signed this bit of paper. we were thinking, you know, just signed that paper tonight too. It could come back on me, you know. But it's you know what I mean. So you sign this bit of paper. Oh yeah. And then we decided this guy was a bit sleazy, and we thought we'd leave. And then he just starts going, "I fucking kill you." Oh. And we go, "Oh geez, you know, geez." And I'm not. I've never been a fighter or anything, you know. Like I freaking out. So I had to leave our bags and go to the police station and. That sort of freaked me because I hadn't been around that sort of. Now I'm a bit wiser and been around longer. I know exactly what to do. But it's like at that stage. But even then, that turned out positive because we met this Czechoslovakian guy. Czechoslovakia doesn't exist now, I know, but he was Czechoslovakian and he was an artist and he lived there. And he sorted it all out, sorted everything out. He says you pay this particular bucksheesh to that policeman, this bucksheesh to the shikara operator. That's a canoe. And everything's sorted, you know, just it's bribes, you know. And then we went and stayed with this amazing guy that kind of taught us. He was like a mentor. He used to shake his head and go, boys, boys, boys. Like, what are you doing? And he would steer us away from trouble. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah.
I guess the bribe thing was not a thing in China, eh? No. That's more
Egypt,
Indian
in
Brazil
Egypt,
style.
Oh, Brazil the same?
Oh, yeah. Whew.
Yeah.
Even the politics.
Yeah.
Even the people who are supposed to watch for that. That's how they operate.
Oh, of course.
Of course. Why not? Right? It's way easier.
Yeah.
That was an interesting one for me, coming to New Zealand and realizing that things work.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. People are serious about being honest.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
But we do have.
That's cool, man.
We do have laws that enable legal dishonesty. As you've probably seen now, you've been.
Oh, now I know.
But it's clearer.
I know.
If you're rich and you get a good lawyer, well, you won't go to jail. There's a pretty good chance. Well, no matter what you've done, really, except maybe murder. But you can get away with most things if you're wealthy enough.
Yes.
And we've seen it with the America's Cup guy that got caught with hashish and some foreigner guy, and he was allowed to stay.
Right.
And then they have a show on television where a hippie gets caught with a joint and they're deported on the next plane.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just sort of
Those bloody hippies, there's too many of them.
Yeah, I agree on that, actually. Yeah, I agree on that, yeah. Nothing but trouble.
And sometimes just the words that media uses, like it's never like a drug dealer, like it's always like, oh, the sports person.
Yeah, sports personality.
Nah, fuck, he's not, man. He might be, but for this news, you got to say that he's a drug dealer.
Yeah.
But if it's the guy with a joint, suddenly he's like, oh, this criminal.
Yeah.
So like even in the media, I pay attention to a lot of those things. And then you're like, oh, it's just a lot of good makeup, actually. It's not great. It's
but
just
like you probably agree and probably saying that probably in Brazil and India, it's a bit more intense. That's the only thing. Now, if you want to get anything done, you almost have to bribe people.
Yeah.
And I know with local body stuff, we've got friends won't even stay where they are in India because anything on air, you never know, and won't even say their names. But they're trying to do stuff, and this friend of ours believed in honesty, and he didn't want to do it. And his brother said to him, "Look, you've got to do this. You've got the brown envelope. It's got to be handed over if you want to get this stuff happening. With the local body.
Because it gets to that point of safety as well.
Yeah.
That's the coolest thing about being in New Zealand, because there's a feeling of safety.
Yeah, easy.
You don't have to look over your shoulder, and then depending on the country where you are, you have to give that money. It's just you have to.
Yeah.
You don't know what's gonna cost you.
Yeah.
If you don't,
Yeah.
So even if you keep your values and everything, it's kind of like, well, it's better for you maybe if you do. Yeah.
I'd say Brazil sounds, from what I hear from Brazilian people, I know there's probably really lovely areas and a cool place to visit, what it sounds, but that side of things, when the violence, that's real violence. In South America, like Colombia too, where people actually have proper guns. And, in India, I'd never feel threatened that much, never really. Maybe the police and the military are a little bit threatening, but then you just be really polite, But, they'll sort of point their gun at you, just to make a point,
Do you guys feel like New Zealand is shifting though? Because I can tell. I've been here for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
I've been here for 9 years. Like I remember clearly the news from 9 years ago and the news nowadays, like the thing with robberies, the things with violence. So I have my own thoughts on that, but like for locals, how do you guys feel about that?
What do you think, Fabian?
When I grew up with Halloween, that is a night of the year where you go out with a group of 3 or 4 mates and you walk down your street or your 3 cross streets, whatever, your area, your local turf, and you go around and you're 10 years old with 3 other 10-year-olds and you went and had fun and you got home at 10.
Yeah.
And, back then, again, probably like Karaka, you had farm and you had space, and now it's subdivision. So where I grew up in Tamahere, there was absolute freedom and trust, and the parents would have a big booze up, piss up party at one of the houses, and all the kids were sort of roaming free, absolute free range, having fun, and it was sweet, it was fine. Now it's all the kids get in the back of one ute, and then they go around on this and the next ute, and again there's 1,000 more houses and 1,000 more places of this ambiguity. You don't know who everyone is anymore, so you lose that idea of knowing your local.
Yeah.
And I think that perception has changed a lot.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot about family violence that's changed in my lifetime, hearing about stuff in the news and the media.
Yeah.
That balanced with the idea that most that happens within a family or people you know and not strangers.
Yeah.
But still there's the image that more crime happens now.
Yeah.
So I think that all of those things might bleed together. There's probably more to it, but that's things change for me.
Actually, I was thinking today about that. I mean, part of the problem with the super violence is, of course, these 501s from Australia, you know, they don't have a base here, but they're gangsters. You know, they're world-renowned.
So I've heard about this before. Yeah, I'm so naive from the word. The 501. Can you give me a brief?
501 is just the name of them.
501?
I think it's a form, the 501, and don't quote me on that, but they call them the 501s, and these are people that get deported from Australia that have actually been there since they were 2 years old or something, or 3. So they don't even know New Zealand. They don't know our culture, and the Australians managed a way to get rid of their bad gangsters. They send them here, and these are proper gangsters. They're connected to Mexico and major. You know, one of the leaders of one of the gangs was Comancheros, I think he's worth 100 million, and he's hiding in Turkey. You know, and so these are proper gangsters. So they're sort of, you know, government level people. You know, they're like government gangsters in Brazil.
Government gangsters, yeah.
Yeah, and so they're the same, but they carry guns. They have beautiful vehicles, and that, but it's only a small part of it. I think when you're talking about that, I thought, yeah, you can consider blame it on that, because it's easy to blame another person for sending people here. But I also wonder about, I was thinking about it today, that the amount of abuse in government institutions in New Zealand and churches is in the hundreds of thousands. Al Jazeera even did a story on it, that people put into mental hospitals when they're young, and they were tortured. They would, you know, give them electric shocks as punishment. And it happened to thousands and thousands of people. And this is in my lifetime, so I'm born in 61. So, and I think it went right up to the 90s. And so, and everyone says, oh, we need to compensate those people. But you got to look at the picture. You know, those people will affect so many others. They might have children if they don't commit suicide. They might have children, and their children will be affected by their parents' behaviour, and their siblings will be affected by this person that comes out of an institution very angry and twisted and broken, and it's, you know, like 200,000 probably, you know, I can't remember the word for it, but, you know, just it's probably means 1 million people are affected, and so
many points of separation.
That's what it.
If you know someone, you become a very good friend of a victim. Yeah, and then you're the child of a very good friend of a victim, and these stories. And I
think I actually know a victim, you know, and I thought, wow, you know, and so everyone, and then we have these. And once again, you know, politicians are famous for it. You know, we've got to get tough on crime, and these people have been broken by the state, and organisations where they're meant to be trusted. And so, for when a society gets worse and worse, everyone goes, "What's wrong with us? Oh, it's the gay people, or it's this person, or it's that, it's the Maoris." No, it's what as a society we've failed. You know,
it feels to me, Mark, though, that it's part of the game.
Oh yeah,
it's it's part of the game to create this thing, you know. If there's no hate, if there's no reason for you to hate someone else, then how are you gonna show your power over people? You know, so it's interesting what you're saying, because for me, of course, it hurts, but I'm trying to detach from the feeling and just look at this sounds normal to a system where you have people running power over other people, you know,
and it's international, I suppose.
Yeah, so managing the damage there, it's part of the thing, you know. You don't ruin their lives straight away, but you make them a little bit miserable. Yeah. So there's this domino effect. So they will always be easier to manipulate. It's the same things with the things that we keep it legal or illegal, or we make it easy to access or not. Yeah. It's things that usually they don't make us think properly, so it's just a bit easier to manipulate, right?
Yeah, and probably on a positive note, because I don't like to bring people down, you know, people listening to this and us sitting here, but it's also...
Truth hurts, this should be the name of the show.
The positive side is that's where we can exercise our love and compassion.
I want to get there, of course.
That's what we can...
We're building up.
Yeah, this is, to me, what life's about. It's about relationships, obviously. You know, it's everyone's your relationship with the environment, your relationship with your children, your family, your friends. Life's all about relationships, and so that's where we can just ignore what they call the elite, because what can we do? But we can help our neighbour. you know. And what you guys are doing here, you know, with you're doing a community thing, you're actually creating discussion and getting people to meet people, and that's cool, you know. And
Thank you.
And it's real. It's been cool. I've said to, you know, I've even said to Gabe, I'm around the Hula Cafe, and a bit of a pump for them there.
Shout out,
yeah. It's,
Shout out to Gabe.
yeah, and it's like they created a certain vibe. And that might change, you know, maybe they'll move on one day or whatever, do something different, you know. But and then I met you guys through that, and there was a certain energy that had, and it was positive, you know. When people like, I remember last time was that Friday we're in there, and Gabe comes to me, all have a hug, and this guy sitting there says, "What about me?"
Yeah, that's true.
It was really cool.
That's true.
So Gabe went over and hugged him. This total stranger. It was really cool.
Yes.
And that sort of, I'd imagine I've never been depressed. I've been bummed out like anyone, but, you know, I've never been depressed. It must be nice for someone who's in that place when someone just does that, you know, just gives you just a small amount of love, you know. To me, it's a big amount.
Is there where we thrive? Is there where humans thrive? Is in the thrive?
Yeah.
Is there what you think? Is there compassion? Is there the
Compassion, empathy, you know, these sorts of things, you know. It's the Buddhists call it immeasurable, you know, compassion and empathy and equilibrium, balance. You know, you got to have balance in your life, you know, and it's they call it equanimity, don't they? You know, it's just it's sort of obvious. I think everyone knows it, but people like to put it down, you know, because it's not very macho. And
It's interesting you said that, because you talked about when you were 20.
no, very macho is great.
When you were 21. Off in India, and you saw some of these things happen, and you said you saw, you know, people that may have been dying. You said these things that should have affected you greatly, but at the same time, having too much, we have a sphere of empathy. We have, if you see one person, you can feel something. If you see three, like one small starving child, you put on the advert on the TV, and everyone goes, "Oh, that's awful. We need to donate $100." You put them and their sister. Oh, you know, we have $50, and them and the rest of their family are now in the picture. All of a sudden, it's too much an effort. Our sphere of empathy sort of ends when it becomes too much for us to cope with.
It becomes abstract.
And you have, and we have to do that. As you say, I think it was Paul the talk. We talked about, don't wake up in the morning and read the news, even though that's you reaching out for information to find out more about the world. You can't do it because all the time it hurts. And you feel depressed. You feel down about it because you can't continue to feel the burden that others feel.
You have a sense of compassion. Not everyone has it. I think a lot of people do. I hope. You know, touch wood. I'm positive.
Well, we all do.
I think deep down people do.
We all do. It's just how you manage to, because for a lot of people there are a lot of trauma involved. So you got to find a way through that, maybe, to realize that it's there. It's giving you the answer, right? Maybe it's within. Maybe it's there.
I think it needs to be systemic.
Yeah, they're getting back to systemic. And that's what. And once again, for me, it's I wouldn't blame capitalism for everything, but it is part of it. It's promoted constantly that buying things will make you feel good, and it does for a short time. It really does.
It really does.
But then you're really, in a short time, you have the anxiety of wanting the thing, then you get it, wow, and then you think, you're getting a bit over it, and then you can get a better one, you know. You can get a better one of these, you know.
I got an email from Vodafone the other day, and you're part of our friends, so click this link and you win a competition. You win it for you and one for a friend.
Ah, yes.
Oh, so I could be a good guy by getting myself a PlayStation 5, and I could give one away and feel how generous am I to give away a PlayStation 5. Yeah,
but when our value is based on money and possessions, that's another reason, you know, to me, one of these obvious things that people, I don't know, it's cognitive dissonance. You know, people don't look at it. It's like, wow, we've got all these, you know, famous people who are talking about depression and suicide, and no one talks about the fact that people have no value because they're not rich enough, or they don't have enough things, or they're taught that. And so you meet people who you would think have a lot of things, but because they're conditioned, once again, that way, they have the mind of a pauper. They might have millions, and they still want more, and their value is in getting more. And this is just to teach people that is, to me, it's It's a wrong action, I think is what I'd call it. It's not evil or anything like that, but it's just wrong action, It's a wrong thing to teach people because your life, that's why so many people live in despair. New Zealand's famous for it, of course.
Yeah. Could it be the wrong framing, like the idea of Christmas, giving, cool.
Yeah.
But then also, receiving presents is the big one, but then to be giving or making or sharing, so that instead of 100 little presents, everyone pitch in to get one good present for the child.
Or maybe
and get the child to give back.
And
give proper thank yous and the thing that you get them is something you do with them, an experience or a team activity. Yeah. Don't give people one-player games. Give people two-player games. So they're with another human.
Yeah, that's
little things like that. Little steps.
And also, I think for me, I find really challenging for myself is giving of myself. I find it. I'm not a rich person, but honestly, I don't think twice. I can give someone some money. It just means nothing. It's only money.
We'll chat after the show.
Yeah, man. So and the PS5 as well, if you don't mind.
Yeah. And these things are cool. They are cool. But you know what I mean. To give of yourself. For me. That's the hardest thing. I'm a very. I like my simple life, and to give of yourself, you got to step out of your simple life, and it can be still simple, but you know what I mean. That's the hard thing for me. It's like to be real giving.
What about faith, Mark?
Faith is something grew up with a very religious upbringing, which you know a little bit about from because there's a large Pentecostal movement in Brazil, I believe, and so I grew up with that, and it's there's strength in faith, and I actually turned away from that particular way of looking at things, but I could sense the strength in it, and I think actually I was working with this apprentice building. It's a really cool guy, James, and he said one day to me, he's 19 years old, and he says to me, this religious stuff, he says, I think it's just people trying to deal with death. And I says, you nailed it, man. And he says, and we can't deny people that. So even though I can react badly when I'm debating sort of religious stuff, especially Bible stuff, because I know a little bit about it, and I don't agree with certain teachings. And but really you should let people have their thing, Yep. But for me, I think I've pursued, since even maybe 7 years old, truth has been a very important thing to me. I don't know why. Maybe reincarnation is true. I don't know. From quite young, I had that religious conditioning as well. I didn't acknowledge that. But truth is really important to me. So I look deeply into things. So faith is sometimes just a blind thing to me that is irrelevant to me.
Because by definition, faith is to believe in something without evidence. Yeah,
you've nailed it. And it's sort of like, I have difficulty with that, But at the same time, it's a big part of society. It's normal for people. Like money is a faith-based thing. Money is only faith-based. People don't understand this. If money wouldn't work if people didn't have faith in it. It's very simple. It's a real faith-based thing. And the neoliberal free market, you'll see people express faith in it. I remember seeing a politician on television, and they were asked about, I won't name them because I don't want to put people down. But it's they were asked about the problem with the earthquake buildings in Wellington, and they said, the free market will fix it. And this was a prominent politician. You're thinking, just a minute, and the journalist just stood there smiling. And I thought, what? That's just that's religious. Why didn't they just say, what's this based upon?
What is the free market, Mark?
The free market is
free market?
They quote Adam Smith a lot, but they've actually perverted what Adam Smith taught. As far as I know, I'm not an economist, but it's for him the free market was the original idea of the free market was that people who got money for nothing, like rentiers, were taxed and hit really hard, and that would free up the labour people. They didn't used to tax labour many years ago, so it'd free up the people's money. But what they do now, they talk about this free market, and it's what it actually is corporations having unlimited power, where a corporation can sue a government. New Zealand could be sued if we kicked out an oil company because they could make 100 million or 100 billion, and so that we have to compensate them now. That's free market deals. So it's a free market's a misnomer. The original idea, like I said, was to stop people making money out of doing nothing because it's negative as far as capitalism goes. It's negative for people just to be renting stuff out and not making things, and they wanted money to go into business, you know. But so they've twisted it, and it's quoted all the time, Adam Smith. But if a little bit I've read of him, it's nothing to do with what they talk about. But it seems to be it's the new religion up until now, though, because it's collapsed. I've noticed it's really collapsed. You know, we had Donald Trump, of course, in the States, shutting down the states, you know, putting all these sanctions on people all around so they couldn't trade. And because the globalization was meant to be the thing, everyone just trades freely and it's going to help the world and save the world. And it's actually not a new thing. It was in the 19th century they did the same. But now, with particular wars that certain people don't like, that they've increased the isolation of different groups of people for some reason. You know, it's I suppose it's inevitable.
How are you dealing with reading and understanding what's happening in Russia and Ukraine?
I'd say it astounded me. Everywhere I've been in the world, there's racism, but I didn't realise how bad it is. Because I was saying to a friend just the other day, I said, we're talking about the poor Ukrainians, you know, I says, I've never heard anyone say that about people from Yemen. Never heard it. They're in a much worse situation. In Afghanistan, 28 million people facing starvation, parents selling their kidneys and maybe one child to raise money for their families, and the US has stolen all their money, and so they're facing, it's probably more people, there's a good chance more people are going to die this year than have died over the last 20 years. And we don't talk about it. And the only difference I could see is you could say it's cultural, but it does seem a little bit racist, you know. It's, you know, and it's like, whoa, and I know it's bad. It's bad what's happening, really bad,
yeah.
you know. It's terrible what's happening to those poor people. But it's like, whoa, just a minute. It's, you know, like I'm 61 soon, and it's like, real soon, and it's like my whole life there's been war. And there's been one country that's been doing most of it, you know, 99% of it. One country. It's not even talked about. They're good guys. They're our allies. They're goodies. And I'm thinking, wow, this, and now this happens, which is terrible. And all of a sudden this is more important for some reason. And it's maybe because people are making a lot of money. I don't know. I don't know the bottom line, but it just seems insane, you know, like it's, so I try and avoid the propaganda and just try and have compassion for those people, but it's beyond me to help them, of course, you know. Yeah.
Again, I suppose it's that sphere of influence. How can we help in Afghanistan? It's a different government system.
Yeah.
There's a different religious system now in place. We don't understand it fully.
No.
We don't understand the languages fully.
No.
It's so far away.
Yeah.
It's out of our sphere.
Yeah.
Goes to Ukraine. Hold up. They export food to us.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna watch that one.
Yeah, and it's interesting that people have forgot we don't know anything about the Ukraine. I mean, I don't know anyone who knows anything about Ukrainian culture.
Nothing.
I know they're quite pro-Russian. Well, Kiev was the first capital of Russia. I know that. That's all I know.
They were part of the bad guys in the 1995 Command and Conquer Red Alert computer game.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Is that right?
They were
wow.
They were part of the bad guys.
Propaganda thing then, yeah, right.
Yep.
Yeah.
I grew up knowing that they were awful.
Oh, wow.
They had red tanks.
Oh, right. Oh, wow. Because that's another propaganda thing of the games. The gaming is, very militaristic.
Hollywood, the games, yeah.
But yeah, the suffering is, you can only, there's always suffering. But and so I don't let it bring me down. But at the same time, whoa, this is a very difficult thing for the world to deal with. And we sort of, because people, you know, I was saying to my wife today, there's Ukraine, Russia and America, that's the three main actors. The US probably more than anyone. And any one of those actors could stop it, very simply. And no one does.
It's out of my scope. I couldn't comment on it.
And the people in Russia are protesting against it. The people in Ukraine hate it, of course. They're getting killed. I don't know if in the US they don't protest. They support it, I think, but I don't know. I'm sure there's peace protesters in the States. They just don't get reported. But it's like, wow, anyone could stop it. Because all you have to do is, it's really simple. One of these things, maybe I simplify things too much, but for a start, you know, if the Russians just stopped killing people and just withdrew, of course, that's obvious.
Right?
That's obvious, you know.
Can you stop being absurd?
Yeah, it's absurd, yeah. And the other thing is Ukrainians could give up. It's worked before. You know, people don't understand. It's actually, if you're up against certain odds, was it Lao Tzu, the famous military writer, said, you only fight on your own strengths. You know, you don't go out fighting against you can't.
But by giving up, they are allowing people to come to the country, right? Would that be? Or
maybe I don't know. It's if they just said we're going to be neutral, we're not going to take sides anymore. But maybe it's too far gone because there's too much hatred. Because that's the thing. Actually, funny. That's the main thing about this whole thing is the promotion of hatred. You know, you're talking earlier. Maybe it suits people that people hate each other. This is promotion of. I've never seen such a intense promotion of hatred. The details. It's nice to show family suffering. We never saw that with Afghanistan. We didn't see very little. We didn't see the child named, and we saw very little about that family of 10 that were blowing up when the Americans were pulling out Afghanistan. They tried to say it was an accident.
And, you see, it broke into my sphere because I watch cricket.
Oh, yeah.
And so I follow women's cricket and the Women's World Cups in New Zealand at the moment. I actually haven't seen the results, and nobody tell me. And you were 9 down. Not much today. Yeah. But the Afghanistan women's team, all of a sudden, they were no longer allowed to be anything of the sort. And then there were messages of the women in hiding in roofs or underground trying to escape because they'd broken the Sharia law. They weren't doing the right thing. Yeah. And disappearing.
It's a violent place.
And you just think, because it broke into my sphere, I'm going, so I'm not going to see her anymore.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was part of my entertainment.
Yeah. Heck yeah. And it makes it more personal. Which isn't a bad thing, at least if you.
So I suppose before we'd be able to recognise the horrors there, we need to have a relationship with it beforehand.
Yeah. It is. It's. We seem to have to. I don't know. There's suffering all the time. People say, "Oh, I could never go to India because of that," which I understand. That's fair enough. But at the same time, I say, well, as we're talking, it's happening now.
And it's happening here.
Yeah. But once again, get back to that positive, it's the only thing you can do is sort your own thing out.
There's some ideas I've been hearing about lately, which are around, get rid of empathy. Yeah. Because human empathy is so flawed.
Oh, yeah.
Because, we see that person in real time. Oh, no. Oh, that's so sad. I see that person. And immediately I can relate to them and I feel that, so I'm going to give this much. Yeah. And the argument is to instead use compassion. Yeah. And to distinctly make it that, to be compassionate, you give the best you can to the most you can in the most useful way.
That's good, yeah.
So to take your own empathetic response out of it. Yeah. You don't want to, you shouldn't necessarily go after the thrill of feeling like you have helped that person you empathise with, but to be compassionate to so many other people.
Empathising, isn't it more like an understanding? Where I think to me what you're talking about is take the emotion out of it. That you weep a tear when you see the World Vision photos and you go, oh, that's terrible, and then here's $10, yeah, okay.
Because you can, you can embody that feeling of sadness. You understand sadness, or you think you understand what they're going through, and so you have that reaction. Yeah. But I was saying before, it should become more systemic. Yeah. If you made it that, I think I talked about that, effective altruism. The idea of if you went to this team of people that are trying to do the world's best thing. Yeah. Look. If I give you 10% of my pre-tax income for the rest of my life, and this is what they've got thousands of people doing it. Yeah. And no matter what your income is, if you're on $30,000 a year, you give away $3,000 a year before tax.
It's good, yeah.
And you know that you're never going to see it. Yeah. You get no emotional attachment to it. You don't get to feel the good vibes. Yeah. You simply have the satisfaction of knowing, and you have to trust. I know there's auditing. There's got to be a system making it, legit. Yeah. But to know that your money's being used the most effective way, and you didn't have to rely on people's feelings, and that, if you made that a marketable trait, if you could go, hey, multi-billionaire fellow, are you a part of the team that you're giving away all this money every year? Yeah. We'll give you this free ticket to the Super Bowl every year. You can have this box seat. Yeah. All of a sudden, the system of giving becomes the fashionable trend. How amazing are you at legitimately giving without you're not holding the photo of the baby, you're not in there putting on a sari and smiling for a photo in your daily visit to this place. Notice, you're giving away 10%, whatever that monetary figure is.
Because I do notice with a lot of these billionaires, it mysteriously makes itself to the news.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very mysterious,
and yet,
whoa, how did they find that out? These people that got they're surrounded by security and encrypted, gear, and everyone finds out.
It's such a chance.
Yeah,
What a chance happening.
yeah. Heck yeah. But no, you can't put down any giving. I mean, but for me, it's just that's where the systemic problem is. We shouldn't have to have giving. And often it's a scam. You look at Africa, the different nations in Africa. Everyone thinks Africa's one country. It's not, of course, as we know.
It's pretty big.
Yeah, it's pretty big. Yeah, and so they pay out more money in loans and stuff to the West than they receive in aid. So the West is making a profit. The aid's a scam.
So I had no idea about that. No,
yeah, they set up systems. What they do is you put your guy in power. It's really easy. You have a lot of money. You put Mobutu or someone in power, some corrupt guy, and then you loan him lots of money, which he gets to pocket. And when he disappears, you charge the country all the interest. And so because of the way interest payments work, they end up paying all this money in interest for years and years and years. Look at Haiti as a classic example of a country that they defeated slavery there. They broke free through fighting. Against the French.
Not many people talk about that.
No, and I've forgotten the leader's name. Actually, I wish I could remember it. He was an amazing soldier. But Haiti just finished paying off. They had to pay, compensation to the slave owners. They finished paying it in the 60s, the 1960s. This is from the 19th century, and so they've paid out billions of dollars for freeing themselves. And then we're sending aid there, and people are sending aid. Oh, these poor people, Well, there's something wrong before that. And the what they call that Papa Doc, that guy was that corrupt leader. He was the same. They just take lots of money, put it in the back pocket, Swiss bank account, buy a house over there. When they fall out of power, they don't usually get killed. They get to go and live in Europe or something, and then the people have to pay, J.P. Morgan or someone,
So what can we do tonight?
Yeah, that's the thing. What can you do? Yeah, it's raise awareness for a start, because people just don't understand this, and it's and stop thinking about goodies and baddies and war and all that sort of stuff, But I don't know. For me, the only revolution you can have is your personal revolution. And it could be a cop out. People could see it that way, but until you can see. The one thing you can find about the truth about is yourself, because it's you. It's the only thing you know for sure is, and I'm quoting someone, is I am. That's the only thing you know. And then you look at what the self is.
Is it Descartes? I think therefore I am.
No. Actually, it's quite an interesting phrase, that actually, because it is questioned by other people. But it's to look deeply into yourself. And it's probably, people call it meditation, or whatever they want to call it, just words, symbols. As I said to a friend recently, words are symbols. You've got to realise that. And they're powerful, but you've got to watch them. And when you look for the self, where is it? Is it your body? It changes every 7 years. Is it your emotions? They change all the time. Is it your perception? No, changes all the time. And then is it your thoughts? Your concepts? They're not permanent. There's nothing permanent. And you could say consciousness. Consciousness is only connected to the senses. Consciousness doesn't exist without them. And so you look deep and find out for yourself who you are, and your life will change. And people around you will feel it. Excuse me.
Ooh, did you like that?
It got very deep. I liked it.
Deep. I can only agree. When you guys were talking about the empathy and the compassion, I was thinking about the ego.
Yeah.
Because for people it's cool to show what you're up to, what you're doing. So.
Sorry, you said the ego.
The ego.
Sorry, I heard the eagle and I thought, geez, I'm going to hear about some birds.
It's cool. I like eagles. Yeah.
So that's how I see the thing. If you're gonna do good, man, do good.
Yeah.
Regardless. I understand the conversation about it and how we should go about things. Yeah. But at the end of the day, do good. Do your best to do good. But we are living in a time that it's all about showing. Yeah. Even for the people who don't have money to give, it's all about oh, look at me, look. Yeah. Hey, the social media or whatever, you everybody's there and doing the thing. So I think we all have this layer at this time in life that it's so important to show to others what you're doing. That's why what you say it sounds so simple and beautiful because it is, but we made it very complicated.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to let go of things.
Yeah. Oh,
that
yeah.
we're so used to do, you know, and just actually be comfortable with yourself and just realize that you actually don't need that much stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like it's much more about being there. How hard it is to just be there.
And you realize you have worth. You don't, it's not through your work. You know, because there's unfortunate negative sides to these things. You know, people say, oh, you know, you get a good job, you feel you got worth, you know, and people, I can understand that, but if that's your worth, it can change overnight, and then you're worthless.
I suppose it depends. If you're fortunate to be able to do what you love.
Yeah.
If you're in that fortunate group, and I count myself in that.
But if you reach a certain state as maybe human is the word, as a being anyway, is you love wherever you are and whatever you do. And like I admit, you know, I'm as flawed as the next person, you know, swearing at work, getting angry with stuff, you know, poor Ange today, but she's watching, oh, you know, well, no, it was 2 days ago actually, me swearing, oh, sorry about that, and she's so sympathetic and understanding, you know, and that's where it comes down to, is just having love for the person beside you, you know,
right.
like, you know, like just, and you know, love for the people you work with and the children you teach. In your case, that must be so cool, being around children and being able to have, you know, influence on their lives.
It's actually said that 2 weeks ago I damaged my finger quite badly. I still can't bend it, and it hurts a lot.
Yeah.
But about 2 or 3 days afterwards in class, I reflexively stopped a door from slamming.
Oh yeah.
And I shouted, really.
Yeah.
I shouted an F-bomb. I dropped the F-bomb. The big F-U-C-K came out. And then I just went, and then I just walked out of class and just held my hand and breathed. It hurt.
Yeah.
And I came back in and apologised, and all of them like, no, mister, it's absolutely fine. We got it. You're all right.
Yeah.
How's your finger?
Nice.
And they were all totally on board with the fact that I was in so much pain.
Yeah.
And they got it, that was just a reflex. I wasn't saying it about anyone. To degrade anyone. No negative thing. It was just, this is an expression of severity, and it hurt.
And pain. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Mark, you brought up work.
Yeah.
So what were the jobs that you felt more fulfilled in life, and what were the ones that you were like, God damn, what am I doing?
It ended up, this is why I said what I said, it ended up being where I was at. My first job was, I helped my dad with some painting. That was cool, because I'd borrow the dad's car and go surfing. I wasn't really working. And then my first proper job was as a customs officer. It's like I've been reincarnated. It was another life, you know. And it was like, and I did it for 5 years, and that's where I got the money to travel. But and I was really unfulfilled, and just kind of frustrated. But I made reasonable money and got to have some fun, you know. And I went away, and I came back, and I quit, because I thought I can't go back to that, and because customs officer with my lifestyle didn't gel very well, and it took me quite a few years to realise that it was where I was at. And I started to think about when I was travelling, and I still do. I love being away, you know, overseas, and it's partly because you can just be. Because even if you're unaware of it, there's certain behaviour you do in certain situations that is quite sort of false. And when you can just be and be yourself. But then I looked at it and thought, you can do that anytime, anywhere. You can just be yourself. And for so long I wasn't, you know, and so now I look at it and, oh, you know, like I said, even today I was a bit frustrated with stuff, you know, how it wasn't working smoothly, but you just bring yourself back to the moment. I suppose it's simple as that. Just bring your awareness to the moment, and there's always joy. There seems to always be joy in the moment. It seems to me like it's not laughing, happy and being happy or anything, but you have a certain joy when you're in the moment. But so often we're caught up in the past, regrets and anxiety for the future, like, even with work, you know, like I think about work at night, you know, and I don't need to. My boss would be laughing, you know, you'd laugh at me, you know, but I'd go through, I wake up at 2 o'clock, I'm thinking, if I do this that way, and it's so I'm going through anxiety, and then when I actually go to the job, I just do what's necessary, you know, like you know.
I hear that from so many people, so I think it's cool that you're sharing. Because some people feel like they shouldn't share because there's shame in it. You know, like waking up in the middle of the night and being anxious about something. Does it keep you awake though sometimes, or most of the time you can actually get back to it?
It's a part of my age thing, I think, my insomnia, to be honest. I wake up, well, bang, like I'm wide awake, my mind's just shh, and it's just a funny thing. But it's over nothing too. When you look at it, it's laughable. It's be quite small things that will be a certain amount of anxiety.
Yeah.
But it's not a major suffering or bum you out thing, but you're thinking, no, this is... Heck, I'm lying. I talk to myself in my mind. I go, Mark, you're lying in bed. It's 2 a.m. Yeah. Just enjoy it. Just relax. Can you hear the crickets? Or, it's come back. And that's where they use breathing techniques. Some people use, you're a bit about breathing techniques, because your body's always in the moment. So if you bring yourself back to the body, you're in the moment. But then if you really, and when most people know, but especially if you've done any sort of meditation, how your mind just goes all over the place. It's just going everywhere, and if you can just let that go, and then in any situation, if you can let that go, just bring yourself back, and sometimes a deep breath does it, I suppose. But so often, my experience, it's best to talk about yourself. It's like, wow, you're in the future, you're in the past, and you've actually missed the moment. You've actually missed it. And maybe that's one of the attractions of being in a different culture for me, because it sort of emphasises it a bit more, because the mundane's gone. Just another day in Whitianga. Beautiful place. It's paradise, I realise. But you sometimes just go, oh, yeah. But when you're in another place, it mightn't even be beautiful, like in China or something, but it's just intense. And so you're right in that moment. And when you sort of look back, you go, wow, I was in a good place then. I didn't even realise, because you don't even have to consider it. You're just there, And that's what changed work for me. It changed it. I can do anything now. I
have to be here. I got to do this, so I might as well enjoy what I'm doing.
Yeah. And there's certain limits to your freedom, of course. Sometimes if you did have 100% choice in your life or something, maybe you'd be somewhere else. But sometimes there's so many influences on our lives. People forget this, myriad. If you believe in the stars, great, but there's more than that, and people talk about karma, there's more than that. There's lots of little things happening all the time, so you can't have all control.
Let's talk about in biology. If you want to go discover a new species, go into your own backyard, dig out a square metre, and start studying.
Well, that'd be a cool meditation, I bet. That would be
There's
cool.
so much power there in the soil, so
Well, smaller species reproduce so quickly, the evolution's so much faster. You'll find something in your backyard that isn't in the next neighbour's backyard if you look small enough.
Isn't it true they haven't named like thousands of species of things? Especially in the soil. Yeah.
There's so many things that nobody knows.
Millions. Yeah.
You mentioned freedom.
Yeah.
And I want to...
Nail down on that a bit.
I want to go there.
Yeah, it's something...
So it's happening, right?
Yeah,
it's all about freedom nowadays.
Yeah.
Who is free?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Have you met anyone free in your lifetime?
That's the thing. It's like, it's like I always say, I probably have met the odd person who's not conditioned, or who have been conditioned and have let go of everything, but they're almost extremists. They're just, wow, you're just different. In Pushkar we stay, there's a lot of sadhus, holy men, and some of them are con men and some of them are real holy men. And some of these people they have nothing except joy. Yeah. Some of them walk around naked. They give up clothes. They give up everything, all attachments. It seems a bit extreme. But it's but you talk to some of them, I haven't really talked to the real extreme naked guys. And
what's the name again of the...
Sadhus. It's just a holy man, and there's different types of sadhus and follow different... there is, I suppose there may be conditions. They follow different paths. But I know one guy, and I used to call him, I can't remember the Hindi name for it. It's a Kush Baba. There's a word for happy Baba. And he laughed, because I said, you're always laughing. And all he did was worship and song, and his life was just totally free. But he'd come and hang around in town, and I said, what are you going? He said, going to temple. And he didn't know a lot of English, and I don't know a lot of, he didn't speak Hindi. He spoke a little bit of Hindi, but so we communicated our own way, and he was just full of joy. And
I suppose, though, he had to eat and he had to poop and he had to make his way safely, and if he had to go to the doctors, he'd have access to healthcare.
Well, probably not in India, but free food,
Yeah.
Free fruit's common. In Pushkar, in fact, there's this place you can go at, this temple that feeds all the holy men. And it was set up by a guy that was a surgeon from Calcutta, or Kolkata they call it now. And after his working life, and I suppose his family life, and it's considered it's not so normal now, but it used to happen quite a bit, but it happens with certain people still. He decided to, I suppose we'd call it, drop out. And he had money. And so he's a naked Baba, Naga Baba. So he gave up everything. And he set up this temple. And a lot of people where we stay don't even know it's at the end of our road when someone showed it to us. But also he set up this place in the little village, in the town, and the market. And it's where all the holy men, and anyone, they've offered me food, and I tend to turn down free food because I think, maybe there's someone more worthy than me. But sometimes in festivals I'll take free food, But it's so he set this thing up, and it's kept on going after he's died, and it was just, he gave everything for it, And
So you have to be a holy person to get free food?
No.
You just have to visit and get food?
Yeah.
So who produces this food? Who's working?
Well, just because there's a trust set up by this guy, and he must need a lot of money, and maybe people are giving money to it.
So it sounds like a capitalist system you set up. There's a hierarchy. Someone's
No,
up
I'd
there
say
going, I can give these people food, but not those people.
No, anyone can have it. No, it's there's no competition. There's in fact, in the same village, farmers bring green food in, and it's more a town, not a village. And they bring green food in to feed the cows. People feed the monkeys. People feed the dogs. This one guy one day had this coconut and he's doing something. I said, "What are you doing?" And he's a Sunil. And Sunil, what are you doing? He's a very wealthy jeweler guy, young, and said, "I'm doing this to feed the ants." People just that's how they believe life should be. People shouldn't be hungry, but there is suffering around, But
do they wash?
Yep.
So they're killing bacteria.
The Jains, actually, if you want to go extreme, the Jains won't.
Yeah.
The Jainists will actually, which is, to me, that's where the Buddha actually taught about extremes being so unhealthy, because he tried the extremes. And some actually famous Jain saints have starved themselves to death because of those views. But as everyone knows, the body is naturally violent. It kills, and there's life and death all the time. Anyone who understands the body, that's how it is. So the extremists you can point out, but in general, these people, what we're saying is people I'm talking about people that were free of conditioning, to give up your life of wealth and just go, wow, this is cool, I can live. And some of them don't even they won't even take gifts from you.
So then I suppose you still have to have a condition of wealth to get over there, to be able to go. Because if you give up everything, except my last 2,000 to get me there.
Yeah.
But probably mainly locals, right? It's people who are, because that's the thing. It's a concept that it might sound weird for us, but for those people, it's just what it is.
It's normal,
it's just normal.
In the times of Christ was the same. Where for the Christians, Jesus went around and people gave him food. He just got given food and accommodation, because he had nowhere to rest his head. He had no accommodation. So he just travelled around. It's just a different society, Fabian. It's how they live, And
I don't think it's tenable. I don't think it's going to be brought back here.
No, it won't happen here.
I don't see it in any way coming here.
But you can also get rid of attachments without just throwing things away.
Why you don't think it would? Do you mean it would not work here, or people it would just? What's the problem with being fine with people and nice and sharing food instead of wasting? Is that a
don't politicians?
Human nature.
Don't career politicians do the same?
I think it's more brainwashed than because if you think the reason why we thrived is probably because indigenous people got together and made something happen
and made contracts to fight off the next people.
Well, but that's because you didn't know what was there. But their tribes, their people had to go together, and even when they were battling, I'm sure there was some kind of like, oh well, now we are together, the ones who were still alive or whatever. Like I think we thrive much more in getting together than actually clashing. It's easier for the people who are used to our system to not understand these things. For me, it's a bit weird. Like I know because I'm interested.
For me too, yeah. For me.
I make sense of it because I agree. I tell myself that it's a better way of living. So instead of clashing with that idea and saying, how is that even possible? I prefer to think like, oh, this is fantastic. Why we're not doing this more often? It's like supermarkets throwing food away. you know, because, you know, like, oh, you cannot give food away because you're going to get people sick. And I'm like, you're sick.
Yeah.
You're sick in your head. You're fucked. Like, you got no compassion. You have no clue what you're talking
one
about.
cracked egg, throw away the dozen.
You-
It's cheaper.
Yeah.
You're worried about someone suing you, or you worried about someone starving, you know, like, so again, I think it's more of like a click of like, how do you want to see? I understand your take though, because it is a foreigner idea.
Yeah.
You
But
know?
I'm talking of
Yeah.
extremes too.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
so am
extremes.
I, but
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
it's like the idea
Yeah,
of the melting pot community, the world's best ideal of
Yeah.
value everyone's culture equally.
Yeah.
Well, some people don't value that. So to value that over other ones, you've instantly clashed with an infinite number of other cultures or subcultures or subgroups of subcultures.
That's why I think you've got to get back to yourself.
And then you go to the melting, like the
Yeah.
idea of melting pot. We have a melting pot. It's called Earth, and as you say, it's been at war for the entirety of human civilization.
Yeah, yeah,
Like it already doesn't work.
yeah. Definitely in my life. That's why it amazes me now. People are making out this new war something new. It's the history of mankind. People seem to. That's another issue. I think people have forgotten. Off changing subjects, but people have forgotten history, even recent history.
I don't read it. It's too.
But I mean, I don't
too
read
sad.
it, but you sort of know certain things. Like actually, Ukraine's a classic example. People have forgotten that the Americans engineered a coup that overthrew a democratically elected president. People have forgotten. It was only in 2014. You know, that's really quite recent. People have probably forgotten Brazil had a dictatorship for how many years?
a few.
Quite a few, 10
A
years.
few, yeah.
Yeah. You know, people forget sort of things that I'm not a historian. I've trouble remembering stuff, so I'm pretty bad at history. But even in my lifetime, I can remember stuff and going, oh, why aren't they talking about that? What about that? What about those people that, you know, can't we help them? Or, nah, they don't exist anymore. Not a problem. Afghanistan's out of my mind. See you later.
Yep.
You know, it's
Until we need something.
yeah, until we,
Or until we're told we need something from them.
yeah, if they got some precious metals or something, because I always think of the phones. You know, I was reading about the Belgian Congo the other day. You know, and I think, you know, they supply a lot of the metals, those metals that you need for phones. I don't understand that technology, and they're all poor, and millions have died since the 90s, and they're not even spoken about. You know, it's a sort of what's the name, cognitive dissonance again. You know, this is bizarre. But yeah, get back to what I was saying. It's extreme examples of people giving up, and sometimes when you do an extreme, you're actually hung up on it anyway. That's why you like that. You know, it can be a hang up, but it's to let go is the key to life. To let go, that don't be owned by your possessions. And I've got things that I have trouble letting go of. Believe me, you know.
What do you have troubles letting go of?
Probably things like surfboards and guitars and things.
You're going to give away your surfboard?
Well, I've given away quite a few actually, but yeah, over the years.
But not all of them.
No, I've got too many. I've actually got more than I've ever had.
Well,
and I don't surf much anymore.
I've never surfed in my life, not once.
But you might as well have one if you're a surfer, right?
Yeah, got to have one.
Or if
yeah.
you play the guitar.
But I think
Might as
it's
well
more
keep
of
one.
it's when it's got hold of you.
Yep.
You know, it's nothing wrong with people having some money and a nice house and having some fun. That's great. It sort of it rubs off on other people when people are happy and having fun. You know, it's a cool thing. You know, but it's when they own you, and a lot of people seem owned by their possessions. A friend of mine who collects cars, and I remember him saying to me quite a few years ago. I don't know if he still believes it, but you know, you look at the stuff I own. He says it actually owns me. You know, and
for sure.
everyone else will think, "Wow, it's amazing what you got, man! It's really cool stuff." You know, and he goes, "Yeah, well, it sort of owns me."
It's 18 hours of his focus a day.
Yeah.
Clean, oil, check. Still
Got
running?
lots of cars.
And when he wakes up in the night, he's probably thinking about the car, right?
And he loves them. You know, he loves them. You know, so he gets some enjoyment, but then, yeah, it's a bit of a trap.
I wanna bring our viewers to the table, which is pretty cool. So we got a few cool comments. The first one from Gabe at house. Sorry,
At home, yeah.
Pilgrim. I want to hear more about it because we engage in the conversation, and that's the ALTBAYS Show. Like we never know where it's gonna go.
Yeah,
but we definitely wrote Pilgrim in the description. So
cool, because Gabe doesn't get to hear this when he's working. When we're in the cafe talking, you know.
I'm not sure if it's Gabe. That Gabe.
Oh wow,
Different Gabe.
Athos. ATHOUSE. Athos. Yeah. Shout out to both Gabes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gabe.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pilgrim.
The Pilgrim, yeah. I've actually, when it came to me, the idea of Pilgrim was actually well, it was actually in India. I was sitting there one day and this guy was doing a survey. He didn't mind if I do a survey, and I don't know if we were waiting to go to somewhere new or waiting to leave. I can't remember what it was. I'm sitting there, oh, that's cool, man. You know, he was a nice university young guy, you know, and trying to learn, I suppose. And he said, oh, is this a holiday or a jaja or a business trip or a pilgrimage? Okay. Wow, I actually think it's a pilgrimage. It hadn't really occurred to me because, you know, when I said, you know, when I was saying, you know, when I arrived in India, how I felt at home, you know, after not being there for 30 years, all that time, you know, and it's and it sort of, it really felt like that, you know, and for some people they just think, what a shithole, you know, and I understand that, but for me it was just like this powerful feeling, and I wouldn't even necessarily know in detail what it's about, you know.
So then hold up. So I've grown up in Western civilization my whole life.
Yeah.
I've not been a pilgrim. What is a pilgrim? What does it mean?
Pilgrimage is on a journey, and you probably are on a journey.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's on a journey. In my book, that's how I look at it. That's my definition, you know. Everyone defines things differently, don't they? You know, and interpretation's always different. But you're on a journey, you know. There's the famous ones in Europe and all that, pilgrimage, but it can be metaphorical. It can be your journey through your family life, of having children and becoming a responsible man, and maybe giving up some things that that don't suit of being a family man, and so you change and you grow, and hopefully you grow better. You know? But it's that can be a pilgrimage in my book. That's what it can be anywhere, anytime.
So there's no particular end point to your pilgrimage. You can keep cycling.
Just keep on
crossroads.
Going. Yeah, keep on going. Yeah, it's just it's the joy of the journey. You know, I think for me, life is like a journey. It's like and I mean, you could have that journey just living in Whitianga or living in Timaru or something like that. What
was the fork in the road that made you go back? What was the turning point? Oh, I need to go back now. I need to go back.
Partly, I always wanted to go back, but also when I first was me and Leah got together, I had a dog who I loved, and I said to Leah, like, you know, I know she wanted to travel, I want to travel, but we're not going until Zeus is dead, you know. And so that was the first trip we did together was in 2000. I got him put down in 1999, and in 2000 we went to Nepal, you know, and really enjoyed it just for a month or two or something like that. And then so 8 years later, what did we do? Oh, we'd bought a house. That's another story. We had this house we never lived in Gisborne, and we got a bit more on the mortgage and went away in 2008 for the year, and most of the year, and we spent maybe 4 or 5 months in India, and time in Nepal and Thailand and Laos and places like that, and that gives you the taste again, you know. If you're that sort of person, it's not everyone's thing, you know. And then after that, a few years later, we sold the house, and so like good investors, we thought we could buy another house. And we thought, nah, we're getting older, stuff like that. So we thought we were just going to go travelling. So what we were doing, about every 18 months, we'd go to India and we'd stop in Bangkok and see friends there, and we'd stop for stay 6 months. We'd go away for 6 months every 18 months, and partly for what you can afford too, and we'd do a little bit of business and just help pay for the trip and things like that. You know, buy a bit of stuff that we sell here and that sort of thing, and which I can't talk too much about because it's black market.
Query. Why did you put down Zeus? I take it was old age. This wasn't I want to go on holiday now.
No, it was just. In fact, it's something I question to this day. Mm-hmm. He was really old, like he collapsed and he couldn't really go out and do anything, and he was suffering, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done. That's why I've always questioned. I'm not for or against euthanasia for people, but the heartache I had to do I thought, God, I wouldn't want to do it with a person. You know, like, yeah, that's just a little thing on the side.
You love dogs. Dogs are amazing.
Yeah, you know, I loved it. I've never had one since. We had a little dog as well, and he died a few years ago. But yeah, so that's what travelling came about. But then we both had a taste for it.
Did it help? I know, because losing Zeus must have been really hard.
No, it was
getting out. Was it the escape?
No, I accepted it. It was hard. You know, I cried, and you know, and I even now sometimes I dream of him, and he's in his prime. It's how much we're really close. 13 years that we were together, you know, and that's before I met my wife. So we were just buddies. I lived alone for a couple of years with, you know, and at one stage I remember for about 6 months, no television, no radio, nothing, just me and the dog and my guitar. amps and that too, so full on sound and that's happening, But it's but it was just you have quite a deep relationship with an animal. The people that have one, they all understand it. But it was quite deep, and that's why I would never have left him. Even now, I struggle to leave our cat. My wife became bloody cat.
That's it.
Yeah, but I just love creatures, It's right across the board. I don't. It's just something in me. I eat meat, and I'm not, and I'm not against hunting or anything. But for things like killing, for me is quite abhorrent. I understand people do it. I admire hunting and gathering, that thing, but I can't do it. And I rescue cockroaches. My wife hates it. I catch them and put them outside.
I got to that stage in
how bad is
too.
that?
I take them, yes.
Yeah.
With my hands.
Yeah. Once you've touched them, it's different.
Which is hard, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do it.
Yeah. So I might be insane.
Well,
a little bit.
In Rarotonga, the cockroaches fly.
In Brazil as well, and they're huge.
I hesitate, I must say, in India when they're really big. Because I don't know if they can bite when they're big, That's the only thing that I hesitate. I'm in Asia, I sort of try and get them out without touching them. But in New Zealand, they're little tiny.
Because they're dirty as well. That's the thing in Brazil. You know that they're in the dirt. You know that they are not in the best places, so you don't want to grab them with the hand. But in New Zealand, they're quite, they're just in the nature.
And they're fascinating. It's a bit like, digging in that square meter. I'm fascinated by creatures and spiders and things like that. They're just... I'm not a scientist, I just love them.
And when you zoom them, they look like superheroes, eh?
Yeah,
they have all like this cool
special armor.
Yeah.
And they're really strong.
So you go. Yes, always.
Are you a composter gardener?
Yeah, we do a bit of composting. We do that bokashi now.
What's bokashi?
Bokashi, it's you get this sort of sawdust stuff, and it helps compost ferment. You put it in these containers,
cool.
airtight containers, and you fill them up, and then you leave them closed when they're filled up for about 7 days, and then you bury them in your garden, and they still look like waste, and it breaks down into nice rich soil. So we do a bit of that.
Because that'll get some beautiful bugs in it.
Yeah, it does. And the only thing I've got these, I must say, some creatures, I'm not so good with, and we got these really weird worms, and it's on a lighter note. This is good too, actually. And there's these really ugly worms. What are they in my garden for? And so I finally found out from someone that they're an exotic worm that that's an import. But I think they're okay. They do the job or something. But it's like, man,
they're like tourists in your garden. Okay, this guy's a traveler. It's the Pilgrim's garden. Okay, let's go there.
I want to see these good-looking worms. I want to see this definition. I want to see
the big fat red ones. They're the healthy ones, man. They think, man, you're going to get good food out of this. And they're going to do the garden,
The little foreskin rib they have on them. They're big,
great
worms.
Yeah, great worms. Yeah. Okay.
I got another comment from Graham. Thanks, Graham. Graham is always commenting, which is pretty cool. He said a few things, but he pointed out something cool when you guys were not debating, but going from different perspectives. And he says, when he says human nature, what he's really talking about is the nature of the flesh. But what Mark is talking about is the nature of the consciousness.
Oh, that's an interesting
idea.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, good on you. That's cool. Cool, man. That's a good. Yes.
And then he says, those two are looking from... Did you say you didn't get it?
No, I didn't get it.
Do you want to go?
No, I'll leave that to Graham.
Graham, we're going to have to call you, man, with Fabian next time. And then he says, those two are looking from two perspectives that are tied into the same oneness, which is the human.
Yeah, oneness, yeah.
So...
I think people do look at things from different angles, and sometimes it's the same place that we're looking at, and it's just
Yeah, life is the same. The point of life is the journey. Yeah, we got some cool comments, man, from Gabe and Graham. Thank you so much, guys. We really appreciate. Mark, I want to bring a story here. I want to bring a story up because right at the start of the show, you said something about energy.
Oh, did I? Yeah. Remind me.
Yeah. And then you just mentioned music very quickly.
Yeah.
And one of the stories, because when I told Fabian, I said, he was like, who's coming to the show? And I'm like, it's Mark.
Yeah.
And he was like, Mark. And I'm like, you're going to remember Mark. Yeah. So I got a punk rock trio, right? Corrosive Moses.
Yeah. Great music. Yeah.
Great music.
Yeah.
So Corrosive Moses was playing at Hula Cafe. It was Hula's anniversary. And then for the people who haven't been to Hula Cafe, it's a tiny cafe, probably the size of this studio, probably even a little bit small. And we set up
A tiny cafe indoor with a nice outdoor.
Indoor,
space.
yeah, they have the outdoor area, but we were playing indoor. And it was packed, right?
Oh, yeah.
It was so cool. We were so happy because like people came to see us and we were like, oh man, well, people were there to celebrate Hula's birthday, but obviously they were there to enjoy the music as well. And I remember we always start with that bang, going hard, like just making noises, classic like AC/DC style. And as soon as we start going hard, Mark comes out of nowhere. And starts like this mosh pit style dance, crazy, but like everybody stepped back. And Mark was going nuts. And I'm like, yeah! The drums going hard. And Fabian is like, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is going on? And like, it was brilliant. And then I told, that's Mark. And he's like, oh, cool.
I mean, one drink went flying.
Yeah, I don't do it that much now. I'm getting older, but when I was younger, that used to be our thing. We'd be the first one up. And it's sort of, I'm not a outgoing person, but when it's music, I thought, right, these people are up there doing it, man. I was probably quite drunk that night, but it's like I used to do it straight, go up. I remember the Pogues, going to the Pogues, and shirts off, they're just dripping sweat. I remember falling backwards. This big guy grabs me under the arms, and not for a beating, to throw me onto my feet, and it was just cathartic. It was a time when, I suppose, I don't know, in the 80s, we used to go to a lot of rages. It's just because my age was right for that, and you can do it any time, but it gets harder. It starts to hurt. It starts to hurt the next day, But it's, I used to always love that cathartic thing.
Yeah, I love the mosh pits. For me, like, I don't even consider buying a seat.
Nah.
If it's a rock and roll gig. Nowadays, I appreciate all the styles. So for me, it's easy to go and sit down and listen to something, But if it's rock and roll, I even feel bad if people are not moving. That's why this not new thing, but this thing with like cell phones. I just don't understand. I'm like, where is the tribal experience? Danzig from Misfits, he said this once. He's like, for me, a show is like a tribal experience. Like, obviously he's a punk rocker, so he's talking about heavy, energetic music. But I get it, I'm like, when I'm there and the musician is going hard and you're in the crowd, like, there's that bounce back of the vibe. And I just can't stand a crowd that doesn't move. I'm like,
and sometimes you're not allowed at big gigs.
Sometimes you're not allowed to move. How is that even possible?
So I went to the Rolling Stones. I've never been a great fan of theirs, but I do like some of their music, of course. And we went, and it was an amazing concert. Like, just amazing. They just can fill a big stage, and they do this amazing show. But you weren't allowed to stand. They had people walking around down the bottom. You had to sit, and maybe because they've had lots of problems, and we were sort of some of the youngest in the audience. It was a really old audience, but old rockers and that. But you weren't allowed to really get up.
Wow,
I was bizarre, like it's.
You talked earlier about being in the moment, and the cell phone thing about being online. You said that people are there online, and I'm thinking, that's not in. They're not there. You're looking at someone like watching someone else play a video game. Yeah. And I get it. It's like watching someone else play rugby. Yeah. But there's a really good article from The Onion, or a parody news company. And this teenager forced to watch Justin Bieber concert live because his phone dies. And the picture of this one kid is looking really upset at the sea of cell phones across the stage. And it's just the whole article written from this horrible perspective that he'd forced to look, and he couldn't look through his 2.4 inch screen to see what he's looking at. Oh, it brings me joy.
It must be this technological thing is quite disturbing, really. I think it's the effects it's having in our society, because it's amazing how technology is. You can communicate, when we're travelling, we can show the kids where we are. We can take them, show them the monkeys, and and they're sitting in New Zealand watching us, showing them around. And it's really cool, that sort of thing. But we've got the best communications mankind's ever had. And it's changed nothing.
And the worst communicators.
And it just changed nothing. And that's where it gets back to me, because I'm a bit of a technophobe, but I recognise it's good, but I'm just out of touch. But it's we've got to get back to the person where you're at. There's nothing wrong with the technology. It's where you're at. Can
I set a challenge here, because I've heard this a few times lately. In fact, quite a few times. I've been accused of calling people. that I will ring the number and I will press the green button and I'll actually ring people.
Yeah.
And I'll be told, what are you doing? Oh, baby, you always call. Wait, you text me? Because I prefer to organise going, hi, yes,
So
do you want
much
to do this
easier,
thing?
yeah,
Yes? Okay, we'll do it then. Do you need picking up? No. That is the end of the amount of time we need to talk about this. And it's over. And yet I've had so many people complain about, can you just text me? Do you mind not calling? So what do you mean?
I wonder, because I've started texting more because people do that all the time. They text.
And so I wonder if there's going to be a Facebook or a YouTube, whatever system you guys use, like a scroll or a poll. Who prefers to call? Who prefers to actually talk, actually communicate verbally, share that bit of themselves, their actual voice, and be ready in real time to respond to the answer?
Because it does sort it faster.
Yeah, but it's even the idea of just being brave enough.
Yeah.
Can you bravely speak to this person and be ready to be told, nah, I can't come. Sweet as, that's all good, just wanted to check, bye.
Yeah.
You can take, it's not criticism, it's just life.
Yeah, yeah.
And yet, again, I think people like the idea of hiding, but then they give you this person has seen your message, so you know they've seen.
Yeah.
It's as if you've called the guilt's there already. Just talk, people.
Yeah.
Just talk to people. Yeah.
There you go. So that's a challenge out there. If anyone's seen, I want to know who likes calling.
Yeah.
Who likes being called.
Wow.
I love calling and I miss calling people more because, as you said, for me, it's the thing with the language, you know? So I take so much time because I want to write properly, you know? So I take the time, I think about it, and then I correct, and then I send it, and people don't reply, or they reply with horrible English, and I'm like, fuck, why did I bother writing? Right.
Are you fast at typing in Portuguese?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when did you learn
English?
English? Was it quite an issue?
I took classes in Brazil, which I was lucky to. But that was the thing. My family, they were at a good position when they could buy their own business.
Yeah.
Well, a member of our family really helped that to happen. Dad was working with metal for years.
Yeah.
Like, so that was hard on him. So they decided to start something for themselves.
Yeah.
And that was good. So they had support from the family, and they were doing this function venue, like this parties for children in Brazil. And then mom could afford. And I remember having my sister as a big inspiration, as she still is.
Good singer too.
Good singer, yeah. So she was into learning piano. Mom plays the piano. So my sister was like, oh, I want to learn the piano. And then she wanted to learn the guitar. And then I was like, okay, so I want to play something too. Yeah. And then she was playing at school. And I was sitting next to the drummer. And then I was like, cool. So I want to learn the drums. And then my sister decided to take English classes. And then I was kind of like, okay, cool. So I think I want to take English classes too. Yeah. So that helped. But like I was very young. I think probably from my, I would say 12 to 16 for like 4-5 years I took classes. And that was great. It really helped because English at school was not great, but it helped with grammar. Yeah. A lot of people would complain, but this classes, they don't teach us how to talk, but it was teaching grammar. Yeah. Just to go through the tests as school does most of the time, but I found value there, you know, so I could put the private classes that I was taking that they were great for speaking and then the grammar from school. And I was always curious, you know, with music and watching shows. So I was lucky that I could learn. Yeah. But then I didn't touch it for years, obviously, until we were, Taylor and I, like I was 23 at the time when I decided to come to New Zealand. And that was when I noticed, I was like, oh yeah, I have to take this next step of practicing and actually learning the language, you know, because you don't know, you think you know, you know, like you have an idea. So in my mind, I could listen to people and I was making sense, but I couldn't do this. I couldn't reply quickly and disagree, you know, like it was always hard. So when I finally came to New Zealand, that was when things changed. It was like, okay, you need the experience.
Yeah, you got to do it.
Yeah, you got to be there. You got to learn the language and you got to talk to people and make mistakes. Yeah. That's the main thing.
Being brave, friends in India have said that to me. I'm not brave enough, you know.
Did you give it a go?
I can do phrases and that, but you said they think, I'm almost kidding myself. They say, you know, you got to immerse yourself, and I go, oh man, you know, like I don't know if I can, and that's just lack of confidence, you know. Just I acknowledge it, you know. It's just
I'm sure they would appreciate though teaching.
I'm
you
always
and
asking them
then-
questions.
Yeah.
They get sick of that. I'm always asked, but I know hard case phrases and things like that, and I say hello, how are you, and all this sort of thing. But it's as you know, that when people speak their own language, it's not like what someone tells you formally.
It's not the grammar.
Nah, they just do. They've got slang, and in India they'll use 3 languages in one sentence. You know, so you're trying to learn a bit of Hindi, and then they're using Urdu and English. So the English you're okay on, you know, and then they're saying it fast. And what's that other thing? Oh, that's Urdu. You know, oh yeah, great. Got to learn Urdu as well. but it is just having a go like you did. It's brave because it is failing as a.
And I like it.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. You know, some people don't. Some people are not interested.
Yeah,
you know, some people communicate in different ways. And actually, I think that we should use less words. You know, because most of the time I realize that I make more sense of what people are saying with the way that they look at me.
Oh yeah.
And body language. You know, I pay a lot of it because sometimes I just go by the context of things.
Yeah.
But the body language tells a lot.
Yeah.
You know. So if I'm trying to convince someone, or if I'm trying to express an idea, I look for the whole thing, and so that interests me a lot. You know, like the language, especially when I'm just tapping more into the indigenous culture and traditions, and some of them were amazing. Like they would communicate with whistling, you know, like, or whatever, or numbers. They never had numbers. It was like 1, 2, and many.
Yeah.
You know, and then you start to realize, wow, we've made it here. Yeah. Without having to talk that much, you know, like the voice is probably something that has to be used at the right times, you know. So I love learning. Yeah. But even with this show, my mission is actually to talk less and see if I listen more. Yeah.
That's an interesting thing because I think it's something we all struggle with as a listening. You know, it's skillful listening. It's actually really hearing someone, and sometimes it's important, sometimes it's not. You know, we just shoot in the breeze. It doesn't really matter, I suppose. But it sort of does because, you know, someone's taken the effort to talk to you, and it's so easy to, you know, especially if you're drinking or something, and you know, jumping up and down in front of a band and that, you know. But it's but no, you know, sometimes when you talk, it's nice to to look at someone and say, I'm interested. That's what it says.
I was having a good chat to Stu at school, one of our good friends and librarian guitar teacher. Shout out Stu. And it was one of the things about how about friendship. Yeah. And getting to know someone, sort of, you know, maybe it takes 1,000 or 600 or 1,000 conversations with someone. It could be about anything, but over that time, you would have covered so many subjects. You would have developed a history of conversations, and you will have developed like a record of what they said then, what they say then, what they say now. Yeah. And so you sort of know the person after time and effort and more conversations. Yeah. You just get to know people. Yeah, yeah. And it's quite nice. Again, we're fortunate right now to have some very high quality ALTBAYS headphones and microphones. Yeah, yeah. It's very hard not to actively listen to you. Yeah, right. You are isolated in my ear. The compressor makes you take precedent. Yeah. The attack and decay. You arrive and you disappear. Yeah. So I get space between the words. It's amazing how easy it is to listen to you. Yeah. And I said that at the start, didn't I? I really noticed that. I hadn't had the phones on for ages, for years. And wow, it's just right there. Yeah. And it's funny, this communication thing too, with the mask thing. I find it very difficult. Yeah, yeah. And I think maybe we lip read. Oh man, so much. I think we must do, because so often, because my hearing's not bad, you know, like I've looked after it, you know, even though I've played a lot of loud music over the years, but I've looked after it because it's so important to me to hear the guitar. And but yeah, for some reason, it's almost like, wow, please take the mask off, you know. Like, I'm not one of those people like anti-mask or anything like that, but I'm okay if you know, and I'm wearing one sometimes, but it's like, you really realise how much important that interaction is. And like you said, the body language, it's amazing. You're probably more aware than most of us. A lot of people don't really think about body language, but it's important. Even scent, apparently, you know, scientists say, you know, the scent is an important thing. And this is a problem when we're communicating through screens. But don't get me wrong, it's great because you can do something like this and talk to people around the world. And are you suggesting that Samsung and Apple need to get 4-dimensional? They need to have smells coming. Well, they're probably thinking of it. I suppose they're doing it. Are they? They're probably doing it. That would be cool. Hi, I'm here in New Delhi. Yeah. I can tell. Oh God! God, please. Can you turn the New Delhi down, please? You'd have to have a little
dial on your end.
Less saffron, turn it down.
I think that would ruin the plan because it's so good not having to smell people. It's just like, let's talk to the phone, man. I prefer calling you.
Back into the phones. Yeah. But no, I do wonder about the communication thing through screens because of mainly because of evolution. Really, we've evolved over a very long time to communicate a certain way, and over a very short time, we've changed that. It's a very short time, it's what is it? When did it really start taking off? Was it like
26th of March, 2020.
Yeah.
My son's birthday, the day we bought our first house.
Yeah.
That's a day.
Because remember they used to have cafes we used to go to. Internet cafes.
Yeah.
I remember in 2008. Remember that?
Yeah.
When we were in India, we used to go to cafes. You pay a little bit of money, and it was really cheap, and so you could see someone, and it was sort of a bit dodgy, but you could see someone, and it wasn't FaceTime then, was it? Something else. But now you just do it from your room.
You'd go there gaming. You could go there and game with people.
LAN house,
Yeah.
Papa? The LAN house. In Brazil, we would call
LAN
the
house.
LAN house.
Yeah.
LAN, probably because of the connection.
Oh,
Oh, right, yeah.
So that was the name. LAN
yeah.
house. You would go to the
But so
LAN
that's
house.
such a short time.
Was it limited something network? So you linked up with people.
Yeah. You just pay to play the games or to have your...
And you could print stuff as well.
You can print
Good
stuff.
printers.
Oh, right, yeah.
And when you wanted to do dodgy stuff, you would go to the LAN house because the
They had a
was...
VPN.
There you go.
They had a private network.
Oh, right. Oh, that's quite good. Yeah.
That's quite good.
Yeah.
Gotta learn the ropes, man. Gotta learn the tricks.
Yeah, heck yeah.
It's thrown me back. I've forgotten about those places. The cool kids used to go there.
Yeah. And it's
Do all the dodgy stuff.
well, I was too old to be with the cool people, but it would just
Obviously,
amaze me. You
yeah.
could go and sit in a place and go, wow, and look at someone over the other. I'll be sort of looking over my wife's shoulder because she's a gadget person, and talking to someone in New Zealand, But now we just do it on our laptop in our room or anywhere. In the middle of nowhere,
Yes.
But it's happened so rapidly, and it's got such positive things about it. But when it becomes all your communications in life is through screens,
And you notice simultaneously the growth of that against the growth of like the podcasts like Joe Rogan or even ALTBAYS in the same sentence, that this form of communication has the great headphones, the best mics, good lighting, really powerful computers to be able to send to those. Just your home laptop, but to produce good content, good quality, good conversation, you need good quality equipment. And people want to listen to it. Joe Rogan gets millions of viewers for every single
Good
thing. Because
sound.
people they want to listen, and they can see and they can hear, and it looks professional. We get fed some food.
Heck yeah. It is nice actually. I like the watermelon. Yeah.
We can go for hours, eh?
Yeah, we probably could.
We could.
Yeah,
we
it's
could.
just it's something we need to do more of. It's just people connecting. It's very simple. If people sit down and talk, it takes away things like violence. If you've got an enemy, probably the best thing to do is be able to talk to them.
Definitely.
It can be difficult if someone hates you, of course, but not many of us in that position probably. But it is happening around the world a lot. But it's so important to connect, and like you said, it doesn't have to be words necessarily.
And we've disagreed on a few angles of things, but that's fine.
Without getting upset, and
different perspective, different points of view. It's fine.
Yeah, and it's good to be able to discuss. I remember talking to a guy I picked up this hitchhiker. I think he was from Norway, and he was quite right wing, and you probably gathered I'm not very right wing. And we had this amazing conversation. We're talking religion and stuff, and politics. And at the end of the conversation, I said, in New Zealand, people would say, "Don't talk religion or politics." And he looked at me like, "Why? They're really important things." Like he was genuinely puzzled. Maybe he's just an odd character, I don't know, but it was just amazing to see that. Wow, you don't talk about that sort of thing, And it's nice if you can, but sometimes with certain people you can't discuss certain things because you have there's some level of conflict, you have with someone.
They may not be ready.
Yeah, and you might not be ready as well.
Right.
Yeah.
But you gotta try.
Yeah, heck yeah.
It really helps when you try.
Yeah, heck yeah. Because we've talked about some sort of dark stuff tonight, but the way to deal with that is to talk, and just talk, or just to be with people. I've had times. I remember met a guy from Rome, Marco, and we had some wonderful times together in India. His English was as good as my Italian, which is non-existent. We would just hang out. And I always remember when we were leaving town, he came sprinting because he thought he'd missed us to hug me. You know, and he knew brother. You know, and I thought, wow, I don't even know how we communicated. We used to sit down and have dal makhani. We both like dal makhani. We used to sit down and have a dal makhani at this place together with this friend of ours who we know quite well now, the chef. I always remember that time, and I think, wow, it shows you it's what you're talking about. There's this another level of communication.
And did you learn brother in Italian so you could respond in kind?
Not really.
You let him down.
I used probably some Hindi with him, probably, because he would. Yeah, it was just an amazing guy. Yeah, it was just. Yeah, he probably did teach me the odd words because I tend to be asking what words mean. You know, I do tend to do that, and you know, if I can try and pronounce them, and so I would have had a bit of that, but it was definitely. Not you couldn't have discussed anything like politics or religion or anything, but we had just such a closeness. I'll never forget it. It was amazing. He's back in Rome, and he was a traveller in those days, hardcore traveller, and a photographer, amazing photographer. But it's it was so you can communicate at other levels for sure.
I've got another one. So so your beautiful wife Leah, she has some pretty good skills behind the lens.
Yeah.
So your property. Do you have an allowance, an allocation of how many photos are allowed to be put up somewhere? Is there a hierarchy of the best shots or the best memories or the best emotions captured behind the camera?
Only for her. Yeah. No, there's no. We don't have any limits between us. You know, we don't have this. Because some people it starts with the money thing. It's quite a normal thing in our society. We don't actually have that. Yeah. Cheers. Thank you very much. Yeah, we just if you love it, you're into it, you know, and that's enough. I don't understand it like at the level.
In your property, is there a living room with a couple of especially good photos, or is there a hallway full of your genealogy of photos and history?
Oh, we've got a little montage with kids things and that, but we've got some rather large. She got these photos put on canvas of this Buddhist. I don't know if you call it a temple. It's not really a temple, but like a pagoda thing in Nepal. And it's a place where a lot of people didn't used to go there. And it's made by the Japanese. And there's these beautiful, bigger than life-size statues. And she got these beautiful photos of those that we've always had on the wall for years, you know. But her other stuff, it comes and goes just as she feels, you know. And because because we can't travel, she's been doing. I call them portraits. And she has a woman that models for her. That's an amazing model, Jazz. She's an amazing model, and she just does these amazing, beautiful photos, and just sort of brings something out that you don't. A good photographer. That's what I've realised. Is I don't have the eye. You know, they see something. They see this little thing in the corner or something that you don't see, and like even when we're travelling, she'll have these photos, and I go, wow, what's that? You know, and it's amazing, and it's a doorway we walk past every day. In this village, so we walk into this market in Pushkar. We'd walk to the market. I would walk there every day, maybe twice a day. I just loved hanging out in the market. And there's this beautiful door, a wooden door. And I hadn't even seen it, you know. And it makes you appreciate it. You know, you could probably take photos in our back garden, and there'd be stuff. I'd be going, wow, that's amazing. Where's that? What's in our back garden? You know, it's sort of like that. You know, I do tend to be a bit oblivious to things. You know, I get caught up in here. You know. But she's seeing stuff.
There's a really cool experience at my wedding. We had my sister-in-law's family, the Gilmores, Ruth Gilmore Photography.
Yeah.
Really amazing photography company in sort of Hamilton. And her husband, Dave, was like, yeah, I come along and help, and I'd look for, the abstract photos. So we were doing all the former photos. There's the bride, this thing. All of a sudden, there's this guy in a tree, looking through a leaf, trying to put the most obscure angles. He'd be on the ground, looking up through grass.
That's cool.
What are you doing? But of course, you look at the photos, you're like, that's a really cool picture.
Yeah,
yes, I love the photos of us. You were beautiful at the wedding.
Yeah.
But that angle of like that hand and that cuff and that pew at the church. Oh wow!
Yeah,
that was really nice.
No, it's an incredible art. It's an incredible art form, and I suppose it's more accepted now. But it takes a lot of energy. There's a lot goes into it. That's what I've learned to appreciate. It's not something I can do. I'm hopeless with. My hands are too shaky for a start. But it's just the beauty of it. What you can see. It's something I really admire. Art in general, it's everyone expresses himself through a different medium. For me, it's playing guitar.
Now I haven't heard you play. I know lockdowns
Yeah.
do the thing in
Yeah.
criteria. Are you gigging or you?
No,
Play
I
for
just
yourself?
play. I've jammed over the years quite a bit, off and on, but not for years. I used to have a friend I used to jam with a lot, and I haven't seen much lately for various reasons, and so I missed that a little bit. So one little jam with Gabe, and it was a bit of fun, But no, I just tend to. It's one of my little I wouldn't call it an escape. It is sometimes I get into that zone. I presume every musician does, where you just it's like watching someone else play. I just love that feeling. You just get into that zone and it just goes off.
And hours pass.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah,
Hours pass,
can
and
be.
you realise how tired and hungry you are.
yeah. Because I play most days, but especially lockdown was good. I play for say just 1 to 2 hours a day in the evening. Sit outside. It's been an important part of my life. I didn't actually realise how much until you start seeing photos from years ago. Someone will be, because I don't like being on screens and photography that much. I'm a bit self-conscious about it, but you look at people's photos. I look at these old photos, and there I am with a guitar. And there'll be another photo a few years later, and there I am with a guitar. And people say, "Oh, you always had a guitar." Did I? It became just, I didn't even think about it.
An extension.
Yeah, it was just an extension. But talking about that, I've got this thing at the moment. I was saying to Max, a guy from Kortunu, it's one of the worst things that happens every now and then. You come up with a really good riff, a really good tune, and then you play. I play it for days on end, just getting it refined, and then I'm thinking, oh no, this is somebody else's.
Sounds like
Oh no,
It's Led Zeppelin, damn it!
I did it years ago with. I'm not sure. It might be the Bats, the song, because I watched a little bit of the Bats a month or so ago, just a little bit, and it might be a riff from their song. It's not, and it's. I did it once with. I was come up with these really good chord progression, and I was playing it, and I changed the rhythm a bit. And, it was Purple Rain. It's one of the most frustrating things with music, because I like to compose all the time, just all the time, and every now and then you come up with something good. It's what I do. I'm always experimenting, and I'll be no good for like entertainment for a dance or something like that. It's not, I suppose if I put effort in, I would be, but it's we used to years ago play lots of parties in South Auckland, that sort of thing, but I'm not at the. You guys are sort of at a level that's I call quite professional. Like you understand music, you can actually read music and stuff, and you are really you're both really good at that. But it's but I love it, and I have learnt some theory over the years just because of someone said to me, once when I met this amazing guitarist, and I said, just tell me one thing, and he said the modes, and I go okay, so I learned all that, and. It's just scales for people that are listening. But
Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian.
You got them. You got them down. And it opens your ear up.
Yeah.
And because I listen to, I'm passionate about India. I suppose it's not intentional. It's part of me. But I love some of the sounds that come out. And I don't play Indian music because it's very complex, but it affects the way I play. And that's where the modes helped. The scales helped. It was It did open it up. And this guy didn't tell me any more, so I just learnt them all, just by rote basically. And then all of a sudden, you say, oh, it all comes together. That's how it works. Oh, I understand now. It's really cool.
And they appear and crop up at different times in songs.
Yeah. And it's and in people's. I started to hear it in people singing. Some people sing in a particular mode. Like some people, I've heard this one guy's doing music with, and he I realised he was singing in that Phrygian mode. It's just how he sang.
Oh, yeah.
And it sort of, so it only, his singing wouldn't work sometimes, but if you chuck the mode in with it, it would work. It was just I don't know what you call it, it was a trick or whatever, but it just seemed to work. His singing would sound better, and it didn't work with pentatonic scales and all that.
That'd be really interesting to hear that person. I'd love to hear how do you find that? Someone sang in Phrygian.
It was just a mistake.
Music nerd, I love
basically.
it. Yeah, you're finding the art. You're finding the method and the madness.
Yeah. And so I've discovered a lot over the years from mistakes. So I always say to people, you make a mistake, just do it 2 or 3 times, and everyone thinks it's on purpose.
Oh yeah.
Just do it again.
It's the blue note.
Yeah. I always say that's a bit of John Coltrane. Just relax.
Oh, he dropped his drumstick. No, it's fine because he's got one behind his neck. It was on purpose.
Gotta be ready.
Yeah, okay.
Indian music and punk rock, Mark? Can't go wrong.
Yeah, can't go wrong. It's just can't go wrong. Oh, yeah, the frenzy.
Actually, India just lost one of its great recording artist, didn't it? Was it 10,000 songs? One of the women just passed
I
away.
can't remember her name. Yeah, they've got the numbers on their side.
Wow.
Absolutely, and the amount, because land of a billion.
Yeah.
You get 1 billion plays daily.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and
Quite a lot.
yeah, some of it, especially they're really into the Bollywood now, and it's, for me that's
but I think it's like
it's entertaining. That's
something
about
like
all.
10,000 recorded songs. You think just how many days are you alive? That's,
Yeah.
When you're 90, I think you reach 10,000. Around about that age, you get 10,000.
And I think she
days.
did some of the voiceover, the voiceover for movies.
Oh yeah.
You know, have the actors at mime and they have an amazing singer. That was a tradition of these movies. You know, that some of that music doesn't really grab me, but because it's sort of their pop music, I suppose. But it's pretty big there, you know. It's but I like the more classical approach and
The Western approach.
The Western approach.
probably not actually. It's a more Indian approach.
Oh yeah.
The Bollywood is more Western.
I think so too.
Classical music is more
Yeah.
more Indian. It's very intricate scales, incredible rhythms.
Yeah, that sort of music goes well beyond the modes. They have
Yeah.
finer increments. The gaps between frets on a guitar.
I think they have quarter steps.
Yeah.
And maybe even less,
The
but-
microtones,
Yeah.
they're small. It's like playing a violin. When I would play, it would sound awful.
Yeah.
Some will be able to put that together into something sounding nice.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
another culture.
It's another level, and it's not music you can always listen to because it's quite intense. You know, some of the jazz I listen to is like that too. Some of the stuff I listen to, I wait till I'm home alone. You know.
Gotta pick the time, eh?
Yeah. And the mood. You know. Yeah.
I noticed that with jazz, I used to get like instrumental music to do things, to write, and it doesn't work anymore with jazz because now my brain starts to trying to make sense of things, and I'm like, this is not helping.
Nah.
This is not work. So classical music,
Yeah. It's a different way of it. It's one of these things that's subjective, isn't it? Food and music, and people forget that you can't dismiss someone else's taste. When I was younger, I probably did. Well, it's crap, you know. But your parents dismiss your taste too, but no, it's just subjective, isn't it?
And what do you listen to? I listen to all kinds of music.
Yeah.
Bollocks.
Yeah, country and western.
Yeah. And opera.
And opera, yeah. But music's been a big part of my life actually. Yeah. But I don't actually listen to music a lot.
It's
like
hard
to play.
to. There's so much.
Yeah, and people suggesting all these things. You know, I always hearing these new suggestions, and there's just so many good musicians around. You can only do so much, you know.
That's right.
Okay.
So you do your own.
Yeah, just in my own groove. It's a great meditation.
That's for sure.
You know, once you get into, I sometimes play a bit like drumming. I get into a rhythm thing happening, you know, and sometimes it just happens. I don't really choose when I'm playing. Sometimes I just pick up the guitar without thinking. I'll just hit two notes, and then that'll lead me into whatever's going to happen that particular little jam. Sometimes it's not good.
Have you got a favourite key, a favourite two notes? What's the safe? If
I used
someone
to-
came over play me something, what's your safest
The
place to go?
safest key for me is E because it gives you the neck more neck.
And the big open
Yeah,
low.
but I've been doing drop D and stuff a lot lately, and but I try and counter it a bit because you get trapped in playing that same key, and that's where the modes come in handy. Where I'll try totally different modes over the same key. You know, and I use a drone technique. You know, with which is I suppose Asian influences. Whereas I'll use a bass note as a drone, just keep hitting it, going as I go through, and then playing modes over the top.
The classical term being a pedal tone.
Is that what it is? There we are. Oh yeah, because they have those. They do have those
pedal
bass
tones.
pedals. Yeah, but and so I just gravitated into that somehow. I don't know how it
I
happened.
think it originally derived from the piano pedal because you could hold down the pedal, remove the felts off all the strings, and therefore you don't have to hold anything down. Oh, I hit it.
Yes.
My first strike
One
for the night.
strike.
Yeah.
Start talking music. I suppose we've now gone off into a very, very different clip.
Yeah.
Of the ALTBAYS clips.
It will be a niche.
Yeah. Niche club. Yeah.
But I love it because it's part of our lives, right? That's why we all connect to here.
And it's another.
It's
I
music,
always.
yeah.
I do like to because I do. Go over pretty intense stuff in my head, so it's really nice to focus on beauty as well. You know, because there's always ugliness you can focus on, but it's really it's good to understand it and see it and acknowledge it. But then beauty's so important. That's why I can understand people loving poetry. You know, it's because it is. I don't know a lot about poetry, but some of it's just so beautiful. You know, it's I can understand that. It just lifts you. It's great art. Artists are essential to society. You know, in my book.
I was thinking about a way to finish this, to ask a question, but I think you just dropped it for
cool.
us. Look for the beauty
Yeah, look for the beauty.
on things, right?
Heck yeah.
Makes it easier, makes
yeah.
it lighter.
Yeah, it's and step into the river of love. How's that for a cliche? But it's a cool one, man.
Mark, thank you so much, man.
Oh, thank you. I enjoyed this.
What a pleasure.
And I love what you're doing. You know, as a team and a group of people, it's to me it's important. That's why I made the effort.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for making it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, cool.
Mr. Roberts, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me
What
once
a pleasure.
again.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
How many so far?
Might be my fourth. I suppose, yeah. All the people that like to comment and send suggestions about how I should get a new top or wear a tie or cufflinks.
Bart Simpson's
Keep it
style
coming.
is great.
Do the Batman.
Bart Simpson.
You do the Batman.
Do the Batman.
I need to wear the cape and the mask. Do the Batman.
Why not?
That's
There you
so.
go. El Barto. El Barto. Thank you so much, my man. Appreciate it.
All good. Thank you.
All right. And for you guys watching us, thank you so much for your support, for liking, subscribing to our channels. We're live every Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at 7 p.m. Our channel is growing fast. We're getting a lot of interesting suggestions. So if you would like to see someone here, just let us know. Send us a comment. And we are considering all these amazing people from the Mercury Bay and New Zealand. Okay, so let us know what you think about the show. And yeah, is that it, Papa? Are we happy? I hope you guys have an amazing night, and I will see you on Friday. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Fabian.
Cheers.
Altbase.
Altbase.